Hello everybody, welcome to another Path of Magic live stream. I know, deja vu, Enigma Mode live stream, whatever you want to call it. I realized it would make more sense if I just restart because the stream was going to be forced to restart anyway because of I connected to the wrong VPN basically. And that meant that the connection would cut off and then interrupt the stream. So I needed to restart it. But now what I'm going to do is instead of just telling you I'm going to work on Valheim stuff normally and being misleading, I'm going to be very clear. This is the prototype for the Valheim Vegetation rework project that I'm working on. I'm not going to put this in Enigma yet, but probably I'll put it in Enigma once I'm more confident in it. I might make it so people can disable it, but essentially, here's the idea. What if Valheim is optimized for single player, right? Because we know that Irongate didn't design it for servers. So what if one of the reasons for that is because there's simply too many instances? There's too many vegetations and instances, etc., etc. So what I'm going to do is almost get ganked by a Grey Dwarf. Before I do that, you need to see what's actually going on here. Because you probably recognize this as Black Forest. It's a little bit different, right? Might not be super clear why it's different. This spot's actually held in pretty well. Let's see. Yeah, we have 2,700 instances, which is actually pretty high. For this project, I think everything needs to be, like, in the hundreds, unless you're actively in, like, a charred fortress or a dungeon. Because there's really no way to keep those areas below that many instances. So the idea is, like, to make it so that where people build, they start and it's like 600 or 1,000 instances. But then when there's like a combat area, they kind of know not to build around that somehow. We could make some kind of like custom limit, right, that blocks people from building near certain things, but I'm not really into that yet. For now, I want to see what we can get by limiting things as much as possible. So this spot here, for example, we're next to a wood village. There's a troll camp, or a troll cave, right? A troll dungeon right there. And then there's also this stone tower ruin thing. So and there's another one there. There's two. So you can kind of see that the reason there's more instances here is because of these locations. And that's why you have to keep the locations in mind as well. It's not just the vegetation. It's the combination of where the locations are placed and the vegetation. These are both things we have to consider in a sort of rework project, right? So let's look and see what is near us. Generally, you can find most of the things that are near you with the upgrade world command, objects, count, and then zone max distance equals 2. This is going to give you a list so that you can navigate with page up or page down. So we're just looking up the list and we're looking for things in the hundreds. These are the things doing most of the action. So we have the stone walls. That makes sense. Those are from the stone towers, which are that thing right there, right? So that right there, and then there's another one right over there. We're in the same loaded zone, so there's two of them fairly close to each other, as you can see. The question is there ever advantage to having two of these near each other? Personally, I would say no. Only because you can still get stuff like this, right? Like a whole wood village next to a stone tower ruin. That adds some interest, right? But is there really any benefit from having this stone tower ruin here and that one over there as well, compared to just having one of them? I don't think so. Probably we can get away with changing the distribution a bit here. So let's keep that in mind, but I want to give you some more interesting visuals. So let's actually look at some other areas that the differences in this rework are more clear. We're going to go to a meadow where it's most obvious. And also, this is the one I would love some feedback on or some tips. If there's anything you have an idea of, like, oh, if just this one thing was there, that would really help the vibe and how it looks, just let me know. Comment, give me some feedback. This is something I need to involve people in and see how they feel. All of these things. Just give me a moment here. We're going to get into... I could fly around, but I find that in general, when you're doing visual things, you shouldn't really do that too much because it puts you in a position where you lose track of what the player is seeing, right? And this looks very different than this does. And when you develop this way, you have to be a little bit careful. So that's why I try and stay on the ground, even if it's slower, because it gives me a more accurate sense. Like here, immediately, like, okay, I like there being some of these rocks, but I can get away. I must have adjusted it, and now it's adding like too many of them. These ones here. What are these again? I think this is... I should have ESP enabled, but I just do it a getaway here. It's rock 3. Okay, cool. So, how am I adjusting these things? I guess I can show you a little bit about that. And the cool thing about this file is you can just change it and then go to a new area, and it'll probably have the different spread. So basically, what we're doing is we're looking here, and there's these two files. I don't care about that. There's the locations and the vegetation. Each one of these files has these entries in it, okay? So here, this is the entry for the Mistlands Viaducts. And in this vegetation one, this is the entry for pickable seed turnip. Okay, that's the turnip seed you find in the swamp. See? You can learn about, like, where things show up this way, etc., etc. I'm not trying to teach you all of this, though. I'm just explaining that, like, I adjust this, and then it changes what this looks like. Make sense? And right now, this actually feels like, yeah, there's more stuff I can get rid of. This doesn't have the effect I'm going for. What the sweet spot is, it looks nice, but feels like something's missing. But then as you play and you explore, you kind of forget and you get used to it. That's the sweet spot. So it's always going to feel like something's missing because we're removing, you know, thousands of objects, right? But you can see how there's so many of these rocks, and that's just not necessary, right? So let's go into the vegetation file here real quick. And I'm just going to check something. Do I have these? Yeah, I do have them still showing up in the meadows. Okay, cool, cool. So I need to use rock 3. So what we're going to do is go to rock 3. Huh. Oh, no, it's rock 3? Yeah, there we go. Underscores matter. So here we have one entry, but there's actually 2 entries. So let's look at the other one. Black Forest and Meadows and Mountain. Ah, I see. I see. Okay. It's both of these, right? So let's actually separate it into 2 entries here. Probably I'll need to do that later anyway, so I'm just going to do that. Hey, welcome back, Fire. Yeah, I know I confused everything. I figured it was better to just restart and properly from the beginning of the stream make it about this. So we're adjusting a rock here. If we look in the background in Valheim, let's make it a more fragrant time of day. We can see there's a lot of these rocks, and probably not necessary, because the player, they can't really do a whole lot with the rocks in the beginning of the game. And we want a feeling of kind of emptiness. So right now, these are toggled to a maximum of 8 and a minimum of 0.7. I think what we're going to do is get rid of the minimum. And we're going to make the maximum... Let's see what it looks like if there's almost 1 on average. Let's do like 7. Yeah, here we go. This means... I know it's confusing. But basically this means every zone will have a sort of 70% chance of having 1. Sort of. I don't even know how it works. I've learned that's what happens. So now basically we should be able to, if I go into my BEP log here, I should see, yeah, reloading veg data. Okay, so now I can go vegetation, reset, zone, and then max distance. I can just reset the area around me. And then it'll kind of like, oh, I just triggered regrowth everywhere. Interesting. Why did it put Ashland Spires there? I think I fucked something up. That doesn't look right. Why is that there? Alright, there must be... I just put... Oh, yeah, sorry, I didn't switch over. So, yeah, look what it looks like. So there's way less instances. There's only 1,000 now. We went from like 2,600 to 1,000, but they're not the right ones. Why is it doing that? I think it's because I just added these comments in procedurally, like the whole thing. So probably something about the way I did that made it unhappy. That's all that I can guess. So what I'm gonna do is get rid of all of these comments here and then make it go back to how it was. And then we're gonna save and refresh. Alright, yeah, now it loaded all the data. Now let's try again. Alright. So now... now it didn't load anything. Makes sense. So basically the file, there's some syntax mistake in it. And so it's not loaded anything. And immediately look, okay, this is a vanilla meadow. We're at 6,200. This is people's favorite building biome. Keep in mind, right? You see where I'm going at here. Like, you shouldn't be able to notice much, like, performance difference now, because I'm just running around. But I have a feeling that this is best for single-player Valheim. This is how it should be when you're just playing in your own Valheim world and you have a decent computer. Yeah, you can have loads of vegetation everywhere. But probably multiplayer Valheim will be a better game if we can get rid of as much of the vegetation as possible, right? So now this was from me messing up the file, but it's actually perfect. Like completely perfect, because basically now I just need to fix the file and refresh it, and then you're gonna see the difference like very clearly and obviously right in front of us, right? So we can see now that we're sitting at, let's go to like a center area, right? We want to be in a meadows forest that is completely surrounded by meadows forest. No water, because water is cheap. There's few instances. A bunch of rocks in the ocean underwater that players never really interact with for some reason. But now let's see where we are. All right. Let's let it even out. We're at around 6.3 thousand instances. Okay. So that alone, honestly, is a pretty decent building experience. If you can give the player 5,000 instances before they get to the current par, that sounds pretty promising, to be honest. I think that would probably be worth it. So here you go. I'll just leave it like this for a bit. You can kind of see, let's leave it at a spot where you can see more of the assets Here you go. Something like this. I'll try and catch the moment that they reset. Is there... maybe there's a better view. Yeah, I could go to a little bit higher altitude spot over here. That way you'll get a very clear before and after. Oh. Alright, there we go. This is some good altitude. Here we are. So I'm going to apply this project to this area, and it'll reduce the instance count from hopefully to like 1,000 or something. And then you will also see how different visually it looks. But give me a moment. I need to go into the other file, and I need to figure out why I broke it in the first place. Probably I just put like a space somewhere or some kind of silly thing like that. Whoa, nested mapping. Oh, there's stuff everywhere it doesn't like. Okay, 1,371. What's going on there? Ah, I see. I see. Okay, that does... how did that even happen? Like a whole line got messed up there. That explains why all those Ashlands spires were showing up. I know you're not seeing this, but don't worry. It's just boring colored text. It's nothing too fancy. I just need to find where it occurred again. Come on, nested mapping. You can show yourself again. It's okay. $13.71, huh? Ah, here we are. Oh, because I removed all of those and then it did... ah, it all makes sense now. Oh, makes sense now. Here we go. Okay. So now, here we are. I found the error. I saved it. Now it loaded all 126 entries. So now I can do the voodoo magic. We're gonna... oh, God. I gotta turn off regrowth. It's gonna get everything up. One second. No, it's a key, right? Yeah. Remove key regrowth. Nice. Okay. Now it'll be fine. So the regrowth didn't adjust it too much. We saw that we were already at like 5,000 something instances, right? So here you go. We're just going to do this. Boom. And then what happens? Everything's reworked. And you can see how it is much more open. We're in a meadows forest, technically. But it is more like just the meadows. We didn't get under 1,000, but we are at 1,300, so that's a lot different. Now, personally, I like how it is, but I do feel that it's a bit problematic in the sense that there's not much distinction. And this is something Panand also observed. Like, if we go to a flat area... oh, I probably have to reset this area because I explored it a little bit, but we'll see. So I just went to an area on the map that's considered a clearing by the biome generation. You see? So if we get rid of that here... yeah, I see what I need to do. So basically... the way it was redone, there is not much of a distinction, if that makes sense. I mean, the clearing is still here, right? But you can see there's differences. There's more oak trees. I think probably I can reduce... I like the oak trees being big is fine for me. I don't mind that. I can make them a little bit smaller and reduce their frequency. And let's see. Let's try and overdo it a bit, because for this to really work, we have to, like, find a baseline that has too many things removed so that we can playtest to see, like, okay, is it worth it? Because if it's worth it, like, if we know you can have 3 or 4 people fighting a combat experience in Valheim from different places in the world, as long as there's less than 2,000 instances. If we know that with certainty, then this is all worth doing. But if at the end of the day, this is like a 10%, 20% performance gain, that's not enough to justify it in my, at least from my perspective. But we'll see. So let's edit this a little bit again here. I don't like how many oak trees there are. So I'm going to make, instead of tabbing over and over again, I'm not going to show you the text. I'll just narrate to you, tell you what I'm doing. I'm finding the entry for oaks in meadows, and I'm reducing the maximum from 0.3 to 0.1. So that means 1 in 10 to 1 in, compared to 3 in 10, basically. And then we're also going to reduce the maximum scale by a whole integer, by 1. So now it's at 3 maximum. This way, they'll still be bigger, but not like so absurdly big. We'll have to see how it feels, though. Aside from that, let's see. What else? How do the rocks feel? Okay, this spot is like 2,000. So this is actually pretty instance heavy, but it might be... Ah, yeah, okay. We're still near the path. So let's get a little sense of things, and then I'm going to go look at another iteration, but in a new spot, so we actually see the most recent generation. I'm wondering how I feel about the logs. I mean, I don't mind that there's more logs, because we do need something. The meadows itself has great textures, to be honest. The grass and stuff is really good, so that's nice. The normal, the Black Forest texture, I really don't like it, to be honest. It looks like the terrain texture, like it looks kind of weird to me. I don't know why. But I feel that way about the normal Black Forest, right? So it's okay. It just is it is how it is. I think what I can do... What on earth? Okay, that was funny. I just saw a bunch of explosions over there. Like, what is that? Let's see. Let's do another scan here and see what we're looking at. Alright, we have mostly... Now, this area is pretty solid. There's not too much of anything. I do feel like the dandelions, though, you can't really see them until you're right next to them. So let's see if I can scale those up a bit. That might be better. Let's see, the scale maximum. Let's see if they're... Let's try and make them too big. I don't even know if you can actually scale the dandelions. There's some things that are weird, like you can scale them and it will work if you log out and then like restart the world, but not if you teleport. But for now, I'm not going to worry about that. I'm going to fight Enigma a little bit here. And let's find a meadow that hasn't been touched yet, like right over here. Going to this new zone after saving those changes in the vegetation file will make it so that the vegetation that loads has the new data. And I can also just reset it using that command you saw earlier. I teleported it onto one of... That's hilarious. Yeah, so this is another experiment. Some of these things we can move around. We don't have to just remove things. We can make like kind of special surprises and little differences, right? I think the combination of removing most things, but adding a couple well-placed things in certain times and moments will work out. So that's why there's a small chance of these pillars in the meadows, but only in the meadows. I kind of don't like how yellow they are, but in the right time of day it looks green, so it works really well. Here, there's 2 of them. Now what? Yeah, now look at our instance count. 1,000. Not even. 960. This is more what I'm talking about. Like, kind of the vibes that I'm going for. Maybe the oak tree, though. I feel like for it to really feel more special, the oak tree should be more rare. So maybe, I guess I could have, like, normal oak trees. And then there can be big ones as well. I don't know. Maybe for now I'll just make these oaks less common. Let's adjust this a little bit. Oak 1, meadows, the maximum. We're gonna take it down from 1 in 10 to, okay, 1 in 100, probably too little. 1 in 10, let's do 1 in 3 or 30 or whatever it is. There we go. What else should we change? Because I try and not, if you iterate each time, you might lose out a bit. Maybe there's still too many of these rocks. Probably not necessary. We really do want to overdo it. Like, remove too much. But still have it feel like a meadows. Make sense? Other thing, I feel like these bushes are too big. They don't need to be that big. Some things benefit from being really big. Specifically the things that make the player feel small. Like the trees, they make a silhouette effect that's really important to mask the emptiness that we create. But then some things just look like comical, like this, you know, like that doesn't need to be that big. I really should enable ESP so I can just look at it and know the prefab name. I don't actually know all of them by heart, so I just do this. Bush 01, okay. So let's find that one as well. And I'm just going to reduce the scale of Bush 01. 2 matches, here we go. Meadows and plains, okay. These ones are currently a minimum of 3 and a maximum of 8. So let's get rid of this minimum and change the max to a decimal. It's going to be like 0. I guess there can be like almost 1 in every zone. And we need to change the scale. So the current scale is from 2 size to 4 times. So let's make it from 1.2 to 2.5. There we go. Gonna save that. And then I guess something I need to practice with, maybe if any of you have experience with this, is the forest threshold and minimums. I think that's what's missing from the meadows. The meadows needs like a feeling of there's the when you're in the woods in the meadows and when you're in a clearing. And I've muddied that feeling. I've made it kind of vague, like it all is kind of the same, you know? It does appear to put some more of these rock things here. And I like the rocks tastefully. I think there's something to be said about having them occasionally in the meadows and more of them in the plains. Because the plains, they really add this cool vibe. So I'll show you the plains soon. But for now, let's check this out. Alright, now the oaks. I need to adjust them a little bit more. Let's take it down to 3 and... Oh, hey, Dakar! Welcome! Well, I'm so glad you're here. You can explain these things. That's fucking awesome. How deep into the forest? Okay. Forest threshold min and forest threshold max. So, does that mean like 1 zone deep into the forest? Or 1 meter deep? You know, I guess it would mean zone, right? I'm not really sure. I'm having trouble conceptualizing min and max for forest threshold, but I guess that means how far they start and stop once the woods begin. I actually thought that they did I noticed the fur trick that they used, but I thought it was by using the edge, because it says like biome edge for the fir trees. There's another entry for them. So I thought that was handled that way, but I didn't realize the forest threshold was also used. That makes sense. I would love to figure out, there's one thing I'll show you next. There's one spot in the Black Forest I really want to work on. I like how the big black forests feel, but when there's a little patch of black forest, it looks really lame because all you see is the ground. So I kind of want to figure out, like, if there's just a little patch of forest, how can it, like, overdo it? But only there, you know what I mean? I'm not sure how to do that yet. But for now, what I'm looking at, I'm reducing the scale of this, saving the file. So now let's do another one of these nice little before and afters, right? 0 is max, 1 is edge, 1.1 is outside. Okay. So it's okay, they have like a specific meaning then, each integer. Or that, yeah, I see what you're saying. Like 0 would be max, so 0.5 would be between the max and the edge, like halfway. Is that right? Something like that? Alright, let's reset this. See what happens. Hey, there we go. Yeah, we can immediately see it's more empty now. Definitely shaved down some instances there. And so you can very clearly see how different it is just removing those oaks. Most of what you're seeing visually is the fact that the oaks aren't there anymore. And so now the skyline is much more apparent. So it changes the sense of openness. And the player is more likely to feel that emptiness, right? Let's keep going here. I guess I should do this. Dakar says, I only use it a bit in Heim Divers to place smaller stuff at the forest border and bigger stuff deep into that forest. Gotcha, that makes sense, that makes sense. Yeah, so I guess what I want is I want edges and borders that are dense, and then the actual forest itself is just like really tall, big fir trees to create like a canopy, but not actually a lot of vegetation. But let's see. Alright, here's another spot. This seems like it has a decent view. I feel like I overdid it with the oak culling. Like, there needs to be an oak. Otherwise, it's like I'm just in a generically populated meadows, I sort of feel like. Let's see. Let's take it up. I put it at 3. Let's take it up to like 8? 8 tenths or 8 hundredths, whatever this value is. Alright, now let's see. Do this again. I love that it's so awesome to be able to just try something again and just like see it. There we go. 1 oak, 2 oaks. Yeah, it's funny how much, like, let's see. If I reset it now, it's exactly the same, right? Everything goes into the same place. Oh, wait, it changes each time? Oh, I didn't know that. Is that because once you start customizing it? Huh. That's interesting because normally when you reset the vegetation, it actually just goes back into the same place, doesn't it? But I guess because I've maybe I was wrong about that. Maybe it doesn't even go back into the same place. That's funny. Now, I feel like there's just slightly too many. This is what I basically do. I just over and over and over again adjust one number and then reiterate it. And then those poll things. Let's see. I'm gonna go to a new place here. Let's turn on debug mode. Get that fast teleport. Go over here. Oh. Hey, it worked. Alright. I was trying to make these bigger so you can actually, like, see them from far away. You can definitely see them from far away. Definitely. Like, look at that. That's funny. Maybe they're a little too big, but yeah, it's working. But I had some of the players playtest this, and one of the things they notice, like, if you get rid of all the pickables, particularly the dandelions in the meadows, they don't really like that. They like seeing the dandelions. And also the cloudberries in the plains. I was like, I'm going to get rid of all the cloudberries. But apparently, the way there's too many cloudberries in, like, a group is part of their sense of identity of the plains. So, like, the plains basically is the combination of 3 elements. The birch trees, the stone towers, and those cloudberry kind of things, and maybe those other green bushes. But we'll see. I'll get to the plains soon. For now, the dandelions are also a little comically too big, I would say. So I set them to scale max 4. Let's go with, like, 2 to 3? Probably? Yeah, it's probably fine. Alright. And then, how's the instance count? Yeah, nice. Nice. Less than 1,000. That's quite solid. So this feels like a clearing to me. I mean, I can dig it. What? Sorry. I guess this tree, like, wasn't there, and then it loaded or something, right? You see that huge thing? It's just funny. This looks solid. Looks solid to me. I feel like I'm in a clearing. So that's kind of good, and it does kind of feel like there's a forest over there. So let's head over here and see how it feels. It looks like the clearing areas are like, yeah, like 800 instances or less. And then the forest areas are like 1,400 or something. Depends. Like here, for example, too many stumps, maybe? I think only slightly too many stumps. And maybe still too many of these rocks. Or is this from the previous generation, though? One second. Let's see. I think just slightly too many rocks. Just ever so slightly. Alright, let's adjust that. Rock _3. Ah, yeah, okay. I adjusted the one in the mountain by mistake. That'll do it. Now I wonder what the actual value for the one in the... I don't even know, whatever. Alright. Okay, now there should be way less of them. Yeah, there we go. Maybe too many less now. Too many stumps. Looking alright, though. It's still... I'm not sure how to deal with the whole, like... Yeah, I feel like there needs to be a clear... in forest and not in forest, you know? So I guess these things are that, right? Like, they only show up in the forest, but... it doesn't seem very obvious, you know what I mean? So... I'm not sure how I feel about that. Looking alright, though. Alright, let's reduce the stub a little bit. I'm also going to increase the rocks. It actually looks kind of... maybe like a maximum of 2. No one's done any combat out yet. That would be the next thing to do, to actually, like... do a goblin camp or something. My idea for that, Dakar, is in one of the live streams I'll schedule probably like next week, and then I'll set it up so I'll use some scripts, and basically every time the player is created, they get teleported to a certain place, and then like a fine wood bow and some fire arrows are spawned like every time. So literally if they die, if they log in, whatever happens, they end up going to that place. And then that way people can just log in, and I can make that spot where there's like a goblin camp. And then that could be like one of the play tests, doing combat with a bunch of people, blowing things up and fire arrows and explosions and stuff. In a way where it doesn't even matter, you know, you don't need to worry. You just die, you come back there, basically. Then we can learn, like, how much of a difference does it actually make to see how worth it is. And then also I want to do the same kind of thing with charred fortresses, because the charred fort is the highest instance count kind of structure that is like a whole fun thing to do. So I'm not really sure about that one, because it's also so far in the game. It's kind of out of reach for a lot of players. So sometimes things like that serve better as like really challenging things that aren't even that fun. It's kind of hard to figure that out. But all right, let's mess with this a little bit. The stub, we're gonna reduce it. Let's see, the stub in the meadows, the maximum of 3. All right, let's make it like a maximum of 2, but increase the minimum so they're more common in that way. Okay. All right, that's good. Let's see. Bum 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 bum. Definitely feels more open. And it's funny at first. Yeah, look at that. 600 instances, not bad. It is in some of the more empty areas, but that is ideal because this is where I think these are the most commonly built in area in Valheim. Like if you look at all the different Valheim players, I mean, this is kind of like screaming a base, right? It's just this hill that's kind of flat. But that, I mean, that looks bare, right? Like, that looks pretty bare. I think it's mostly because of the mountain. Yeah, mountains I'm not sure about. But let's actually go to a black forest. And I'll try and, like, find an illustration of what what I was talking about earlier that I want to fix. Yeah, here's a tiny little black forest. So what I've noticed is the black forest, when it's like a whole black forest, it's not so bad. Made the plains more focused on rocks when you're not in the woods. So there's more of these things and they're bigger. And if you look at the instances, there's 1,000, but keep in mind that's 1,000 with a blueprint that is like 600 or something. So it's quite good. These things, they change a lot of visual, but they only are one object. So I'm trying to figure out how to use them better. Probably that bush is too big. Yeah, these bushes don't need to be scaled so big because you get a feeling of smallness from those big things. So you don't necessarily need to make everything look so scaled up, right? Or we don't need to. I always do that. I say you as if I'm saying one of you, but I'm not. I'm just the general you, right? The royal you. I'm going to look at these real quick, and I'm going to reduce the scale of them. Let's see. They are in the plains. There's bush 1, heath. But this is the one, yeah, this is the one that's near the water. I'm not going to worry about that one. Shrub 2, heath, scale. Let's make it a maximum of 2. There, we're going to go with like 1.4 and 2. So I'm going through and I'm just reducing the upper scale maximum for some of these plains assets so that they don't look as enormous for the plants. I'm keeping the rocks that way though. Not too worried about those. Just looking for the bushes. Okay, here we go. Bush 2, cloudberry bush. Wait, can I scale up the cloudberry bush? I didn't even think about trying that. I mean, if it's working on the other things, I may as well try it. Let's see. Scale minimum 1.4. I'll just do the dandelion thing. That was like 2 to 4. Yeah, 2.5. There we go. Okay. Now I'm saving this. All right, let's find a little spot with a decent view here. Now let's see what it looks like. We're gonna need some of these in the shot. There we go. Whoa. Way more open. None of the, all of the stones went away though. You can see how that immediately, like, what I've learned from this is that the toll objects have a huge impact on how an area feels. They did. They scaled up. Look at that. That's hilarious. And it stays big. This is too big, but it's really funny. I'm very amused by these scaled up cloudberries. They look pretty cool, to be honest. Let's see. That's 1.4 min, 2.5. Okay, let's go with like a 2, 1.8, and then 1.2. All right, and then why did the Heathrock pillars? Was it just RNG? Is that what's happening? Let's see. It's weird that there were none. So yeah, I guess it's just RNG. Wait, if you're still there, Dakar, could you explain to me why? I swear, when I use vegetation resets in normal on Path of Magic, it puts them in the same place. Like when I run the command, it applies the stuff in the same place. Whereas now, every time I reset the vegetation, I get like a different roll of where everything is. And like, I like this. I actually prefer it this way because then I can just keep resetting an area and I get a different sense for how it can look, you know? Like, sometimes there's a bunch of stones. Other times there's like no stones at all, right? Like here we're looking at 1200 instances, but again, we have that Konar Tower in the loaded area. I guess I should go. I can show you this if any of you watching, you haven't done Slayer in Enigma mode. You can find these alien-looking tower things. And then I should get like zapped up. There we go. I had debug mode on, so it looked kind of weird. Normally there's like a black screen. But that's how you get up into it. It's all scripted stuff. You can get a bunch of different things and turn them in here. This lady gives you quests, basically. Like if we give her a coin pile. Let's say I had enough coins for some reason. Now I can make it, and then she'll be like, "Heyo! Your task is slay Droger elites in the swamp while wielding a bronze sword 40 times." Make sense? And then if I go do that, I get a bunch of coins, and yeah, fun stuff. I only told you guys that stuff because I know that looking and seeing that big floating thing up there is like, what the hell? Yeah. That's just part of Enigma, don't worry about it. It's not something I think like needs to be in normal Valheim. I like the planes though. I like them a lot. See, if it looked like this all the time, I wouldn't like it. But if it sometimes has a bunch of stones and other times doesn't, I like that. Ah, so Dakar says, I think because there's rules to prevent vegetation spawning on top of each other, if any change is made to distribution, then it makes sense to recalculate and regenerate all vegetation. Gotcha. So basically, it's like when it's vanilla and you're not using you haven't changed the entries, then they'll show up in the same place. But once you've adjusted them, then it's just going to like reapply your rules each time you reset it. That would make sense, definitely. Hey, why does this have the old blueprint? It's weird. Oh, I'm on an old world, aren't I? Yeah, let's see. I didn't make a new one, so locations, reset, zone, max distance. It should lose its, like, green thing. I removed them from the blueprint, but yeah, I guess I didn't deal with that. Yeah, whatever. I'm not too fussed about it. For now, let's see. Oh, there was also a goblin camp here. Nice. You see, this is what I'm kind of was talking about with the meadows. Like, what I've noticed in the plains is it really looks nice when there's a... How? Why? I don't know. What was that from? I don't know. I don't know how to explain that. To be honest, I don't know why there's suddenly a big rock there. But what I was trying to explain is that what looks nice is when you have this variation, right? So it can go from like there being a bunch of rocks to it being clear to there being trees. That is important. Like it can't just be like this is the plains. It's like this is the plains in the woods. This is the plains in the clearings. This is the plains in the rock areas, right? Let's see, I'm gonna redo this again. Let's reset the vegetation again, and then we'll probably go to a different biome. I'm just kind of dabbling around, looking to see how people will feel. I don't even know how to describe that rock, to be honest. I think probably it's because I had the regrowth script on, which causes things to respawn. But that doesn't explain how a mountain rock spawned inside of a goblin camp. Like, I don't know. I got rid of it though, in the most recent vegetation reset, it vanished. Yeah, and then there's some other things that are like the locations in Enigma. I feel like I'll probably limit them because I like when things show up in the plains, but stuff like this, I don't know. It feels like it needs something to change how it looks. You know what I mean? It looks too jarring. These work in the mountains and in the ashlands, but here, not really. They're all naked. Oh no, that's right. This is the old... I keep forgetting this is an old world. Yeah, so their data didn't... Like, let's see. If I punch him... Yeah, then yeah, now suddenly they have all their data. Calm down! Jesus. Oh, that's funny. Oh yeah, I can't kill them! That's right! I tried to use the kill all. It doesn't work on them. Oh, it's funny. I can go ghost though. Uh-oh. They broke my hat. My hat keeps me safe. I have to wear it. It's funny. I keep forgetting that the scripts are all running. I think I'm on just like a normal world, but... So like they got mad and then they calmed down and it's pretty funny. Yeah, you're all just gonna forget why you're mad? That's how it works? Ah, so forgiving. Alright. Is there anything glaringly wrong about the plains? My favorite thing for the plains is like these things. I really like the way the bushes look. Maybe there's too many of them. I don't know. It's kind of hard to tell with all the locations, right? This I actually reworked. So I removed these from the plains. I removed the green altar thing. And now they only show up in like more discrete places. But that's something else. For now, it's alright. Yeah, like, this is the kind of thing I want to test. This is actually, it would be a perfect spot to play test, because we have a huge goblin camp, and then we have a mostly bare plains, right? But it has a little bit nearby. But, like, there's so many goblin here, right? And NPCs are the most expensive thing, pretty much, resource-wise. So, like, if this could happen in multiplayer, like, you could handle being around all of these monsters in multiplayer. Honestly, even if it didn't work with 4 people, it might still be worth it if it worked with 2 or 3. Really. Because I guess 4 is kind of idealistic, to be honest. I'd say testing with 3 people in the area is good enough. Because then at least, okay, yeah, the whole group of 4 can't play together without problems, but at least you can play with 1 or 2 other people without having to be too worried about it, you know? That sounds like a good sweet spot, I would say personally, but not really sure. Even something like this, you can see like my client, I'm pretty laggy right now. Well, not pretty laggy, but my frame rate's down because there's so many monsters, probably. But let's see. If I log out, I'm gonna run garbage collection. So basically, I log out, then I just log back in. I want to see what that area with all those goblin feels like just normally. Without the fact that I was exploring in debug mode and flying around and doing all that, those vegetation resets, and those are all commands that can take up attention and time and cause problems. All right. So now I'm back. Let's give it a little bit here, load in. Yeah, now it's like totally fine. I got max FPS, even though I'm in the goblin camp where I was laggy before. And this is always something like I have to try and keep in mind because there's so many factors that go into like when players are laggy. So like, oh, I didn't have God mode on, of course. I should have realized that. That's funny. I was confidently just running around that camp on 1 health. Oh, that's funny. But what I was trying to say is that there's so many things going on. Like, for example, a mod like Speedy Paths, I wouldn't think that that is related to lag. Make sense? No. No. I wouldn't think that Speedy Paths would be related to lag. It just makes you run faster, right? But it is. It's essentially, it puts the player in the position where they will overload the client, and what you just saw, I was experiencing like 45 frames per second, and then I logged out and logged back in, and it was 60. It makes that happen more. So, like, that's what's so complicated about the Valheim networking thing. You have to factor in, like, a lot of psychology and think about the indirect effects of players' actions. So the faster the player moves, the more frame rate they will lose. That's the simplest way to think of it. It's indirect, it's not immediate, but that's what happens, right? So, now let's check out the Ashlands. I really love the Ashlands because they have these really expensive visual effects that makes everything lag, right? But what I found is that you can use those same VFX to get away with having very little, because there's something about the Ashlands that makes the trees silhouette and the VFX with some rocks, it looks great. It looks cool. And it makes you feel very small, but also opens up the Ashlands itself to be more like the plains and get, wow, just a scug just chilling. Wait, did I ever put God mode back on? I don't think I did. Oh god. Hide behind this rock. Ah! No! That was worth it. Gid. Oh, okay. I need some Pinot Leo. One moment. Alright. This time, we're gonna go, let's go somewhere where there's not much lava. And I have God mode and Ghost on. So I won't get killed immediately. Yeah, my kid will not save me now. I didn't type it fast enough. I was panicking, man. You know, it's funny. I bet there's probably a hotkey for God mode. Like there's probably just one button I could press. This is so tall. What the hell? Oh man. All right. Definitely, I don't need to have so many trees. And the ashlands feels really open, right? I think the ashlands personally. So I'm trying to incorporate a lot of what I've learned from people playing vanilla in the ashlands. And basically, the ashlands is too crowded and it's like too hard to fight there, so people hate it. They like going there, but it's sort of like so challenging and there's so little safety that like people just don't really go there much, if that makes sense. So here it just looks like there's just too many certain trees, but the sizes like that, for example, I love the vibe of like that big silhouette with the ashlands particle effects. It looks really nice. It's just there's too much other random stuff, right? So probably I can just isolate the trees that I kind of like. There's this one here. This one I don't think looks good when it's scaled because it like has a weird yeah, it's like I'll just wing with it. Let's see. You know what? I should probably log out and enable ESP, but no, I'm gonna be a Neanderthal. Keep doing this. Ashland's Tree 3, huh? Is that actually Ashland's Tree 3? Oh, don't have a hammer. Might help. Alright. Yeah, that is Ashland's 3 tree. Okay. Hello, fish. Welcome back. Yeah, you're inspired? That's great. I'm working on this this project here. Definitely can get rid of a bunch more things here. Is that a stump? What is this? Is this like a... Oh, it's a piece of the tree. Okay, I see. I see. Oh, you're gonna do a storytelling, like storytelling in a build? Like visual storytelling? Or are you gonna write something, like a story? You know, Dakar always talks about visual storytelling and things. You want to write a murder mystery? That's cool. Dude, short stories, man, that's the way to go. That's the way to go. People try and go all in on a novel, but a novel's like... Yeah, like trying to make all of Enigma. If that makes sense. It takes a long time. A lot of scripting and writing. It's best to just do like little, shorter things. That way you can kind of not get too burned out. And then when you really know what you want to do, you can make something big. Alright. Let's go with these trees here. I keep making the time of day like more. But this is how dark it is in the middle of the day in the Ashlands, right? Like that's just how it is. So nothing happens when I do that. Alright, let's see. Tree. Tree. Oh. What was that? Ashland's tree. Okay. I have tree 6. What feels like there's too much of it, though? The bushes are probably a little bit too big. Probably too big here. Let's go with... yeah, they're at 6.6 as a max. That's huge. Let's go with 4. Alright. Yeah, adjusting the Ashland's weather. You know, honestly, I really like the particle effects and everything in the Ashlands. Like, in the music and the ambience. I really enjoy it. But I think probably because of how combat focused they made it, it'll be more enjoyable to the players if it's more open and there's more space to fight in. And it's not so cluttered. We'll see, though. Definitely. I think I can just reduce all the trees except my favorite ones, which I think is 6. Let's see. Hammer, Ashland's tree 6. Yeah, Ashland's tree 6 and Ashland's tree 6 big. Those are my 2 favorite ones. So I'll just leave those ones. But all the other ones, Ashland's tree. Yeah, I'm going to reduce all the other ones, I guess by a third. Yeah, I'll just make it, or maybe even like a quarter. Ashland's tree 3. Ashland's tree 1. Another Ashland's tree 1. Ah, I see. They got a lot of entries for them. I see. I see. 1. Yeah, these are the ones that I added. Okay, I was looking at the wrong entries. Okay, 0. I guess I'll go with 0.1. Oh no, this is the tree I like. We want the tree I don't like. Three and 1, 1, 1, 5. Okay. Let's see. Anything else I can adjust here? Oh, I mean, Fish, if you want, you can, if you want, I can make you a little spot in the Discord where you can, like, type, and it can just be your spot to brainstorm things. Sometimes that really helps me, because I tend to, like, I have the habit of using Discord a lot. So, like, sometimes it's better for me to start something there, because I'm already there, and I can just type on it a bunch, and I use it more habitually that way. So if you want a channel to work on your thing, like, I know it's not Valheim related, it's okay. I can give you a spot if you want. Just let me know. Let's see. We're at 2,500 and definitely too many trees here. They normally don't look like this, but they're scaled up a bunch, which is making them look all crazy, right? So let's reduce the scale maximum a little bit for the really big one. So it's going to be like 3 to 4. Now let's re-roll the vegetation here and see how it looks. Locate, no, vegetation. All right. Oh, these things are huge. Okay. These logs obviously don't need to be so big. All right. Log. Okay. Is that just Ashland's log? No, what's this called? Branch 1. Ashland, this is a branch? This is a branch? You calling that a branch? Okay, whatever. Ashland's branch 1. Yeah, I just need to scale that down. That's a little bit too enormous. Fire says, my wife's Discord has become my personal notepad. Yeah, I feel you. That's funny. Yeah, it can be... there's always ways to transfer scripts that might not be intuitive to others, but might be perfect for you. Let's see. I need to change the frequency of these, and I need to change the scale. They're way too big. Let's go with 2 or 3 is the maximum. All right. Oh, yeah, that's a good idea. Yannick had a good point. Instead of doing the thing I was doing, I can just use the pipette and then just click, and then it'll tell me the thing. Yeah, that's good. Really, what I should do though, I should just enable ESP, because then you just look and it tells you. That's why, like, I know the tools, I'm not using them for some reason. So, alright, here we've barely shaved down any instances. Let's see. Bow, bow, bow. Yeah, that's the same as what ESP does, Yannick. It like you can just like here, for example, I can just go like that, and it would tell me the ID and all the information based on what I'm looking at in the cursor. It's like super immediate. But let's see. All right, we have 2,000 something instances here. So what are a lot of those instances? Let's actually see. Objects, count, zone, max distance. All right, we have 200 ash vines. Interesting. Part of that location, no doubt. Bunch of coal. Bunch of pieces of the location. I guess is it mostly that location? That would make sense. Yeah, it's a big cathedral too. All right. For now, I'll just redo this and I'll see how the logs look. I don't want too many of those big logs that we were seeing earlier. Want more reasonably sized logs. This is looking better. Yeah, we still got some trees and stuff, but have more open space to fight in, which makes dealing with the combat in the ashlands more reasonable. It's quite dark. For the moment, I'm going to reset, or I'm going to do end clear, but just keep in mind, like, when you're doing anything for development for what the player is going to see, you really don't want to develop this way because, like, it's not what the player sees. So it'll make you feel like something looks good when it actually doesn't to them. Make sense? So let's get a little bit away from that cathedral, because it looks like those cathedral things have enough instances that I should classify them as a lag maker. So here, I'll explain what that means real quick. If I just go here, now I can go into the locations YAML, and we're going to look for... What's this location called? Let me actually just scan it real quick. 1 second. Locations, list, zone. We are near Charred Tower Ruins 2, probably. Yeah, there's actually a couple of them. Okay. So... 1 second, let me just verify that this is actually the right place. I need to fly over and just scan this one spot. Charred Ruins 1. That's what it is. Okay, Charred Ruins 1. So Charred Ruins 1 in particular is a big cathedral with loads of pieces in it. So, now what I need to do is find Charred Ruins 1 here. And it's already in this zig group. I don't know if I can add... I wish I could add multiple groups. So, like, if I change this... Because I have, like, this one group that I put all of the lag stuff in. It's called Heavy Lag Makers. Makes sense? So once this is in it, the group, basically, then... I can stop it from being near a different location. Makes sense? So, like, I don't want a goblin camp next to a charred fortress. As cool as it sounds, they're both combat experiences, so it's just a laggy mess. Makes sense? Oh, you requested multiple groups? Maybe I should also request multiple groups, then. We can, up the ante. Where's your post? I'll say something there. I'll add to your... sentiment. Let's see. Valheim world editing. Yeah, I see your post now. Alright. I'm just gonna give it a bunch of emojis here. One moment. Alright, I'm back now. Let's see. Yeah. Alright. I'm wondering, are there any consequences to me making the Zig group? Wait, what is group? Wait, what? What is group max compared to group? I think these two are related, right? Min distance from similar and group. But what's group max? Does that like fuse their quantity? I don't know. I don't know. I'm not gonna worry about it for right now. I guess I'm just not gonna mess with it. I can accept that this is a huge amount of instances, just kind of like a fort. So as long as it's not near a fort, and as long as a player doesn't try and build in this thing, or near it, I guess it's okay. What I can do something about, though, is this stuff. You can see how easy it is, right? This, like, I already feel disconnected just flying around with N clear up here. Like, it feels weird. It's so hard to keep track of, like, the player vibe. Wait, what? Oh, these are loose logs. Ah, yeah, I see. Yeah, I would assume group max is like it kind of makes it so the quantity gets counted as the other one's quantity or something. I don't really know how that works. I don't know how a lot of this stuff works. I've just been messing with it. See, it's funny because from here, this looks blank, like so blank, right? But then if you actually go the way that the player sees it, I'm gonna, you know, reset everything to, oh yeah, I just need to not fly. Then, like, yeah, it still looks open, right? But it doesn't look as bad as it did. And I think I have a feeling that for Ashlands, this is what players need. They need more like an open area that they can see the monsters coming to them. There's not as much instances, and there's more that they can, more space for them to fight in. Because it does seem that there is in general a sentiment that the Ashlands, it's kind of like unrealized. You know what I mean? Yeah, I was just ignoring that tree, Yanel. Good eye though, good eye. This, yeah, so this is more like, I see it's the locations really that are now causing most of the lag, I would say. Like here, for example, all right, we're in the Ashlands. We have 900 instances, right? To me, like, this is what it needs, is the baseline. Obviously, I'm not in an area with a bunch of lava, and the locations are smaller like this, right? I think combat will probably be alright if this is what's normal, you know what I mean? And so far, yeah, I'm like, I'm alright with this. It feels like Ashlands. To be honest, it looks like Ashlands just carries itself if you have the silhouettes of the trees and the VFX, like, they're all twisty and stuff, and you look at it from the player's perspective. This definitely feels more open. Like, it feels like I can run around and, like, explore. I think probably that might be for the best. I was trying to figure out what to do about the spikes. I think probably that's what we'll move on to next. I'm so Fire's comment. Fire's been working on a mod where he makes like a gun and a sniper rifle and zooms in and practices his modding skills and stuff. So it's funny seeing him like in Valheim with like a 40 cal or 50 cal. This looks fine to me, though, to be honest. It almost, like, the music almost feels better if it's a bit vast and desolate. There's this eeriness to the music that suits the vastness of the heat and everything, right? So, like, see, right here, for example, we have 1,800 instances. So where are those instances coming from? There must be a location close by, right? Do you see it? That's comical, right? I don't know how to deal with that part. Like the big tree. Should the big trees just be invincible or something? I don't know. The fire seems to, like, burn them down. I'm not sure why the ash trees are burnable, but that's something to figure out later. More right now, it's just about the visual aesthetics of things. And so where are these extra instances? If I go over here... Yeah, it's like 1,000. It loads... Ah, there we go. Yeah, I can see it if I look away from it. It's just another one of those, just another one of those cathedrals. And it looks like this is the sweet spot. Like, if it's 2,000, it's okay if there's a location there. But if there's not a location that's one of those bigger ones, should be less than that. So, like, if we go away from that, so that area unloads. There we go. Yeah, 1,200. I'd say this is pretty solid, but let's look at an area that has more lava. Because we're being a bit idealistic and looking at the best possible spots, right? And there sorry, my Pinolio went down the wrong place. Okay. There we go. As in the lava fields, I've noticed it's actually even better. Because there's less stuff in the lava. So like here, for example, we're at 1,000. And it definitely, like, honestly, the Ashlands is one place where I feel like the vacantness, it actually works. Like, it feels like it enables the focus to be on the fighting and the monsters and the locations. It's like the polar opposite of the Mistlands, right? Where it's all spiky and everything. Here, this is very open, right? I dig it. I dig it. I think I'm happy with this. The thing I'm not happy with, though, is these things. I need to figure out... I was thinking about making them bigger and making, like, an impenetrable wall that you have to crash into, but I'm still not sure. I don't know which way to go. So I'll show you a bit about my reasoning, but right now yeah, it's an experiment, so bear with me here, okay? We're gonna go back into env clear so you can see what's going on. I know it's overdone right now. It's overdone, but you'll get the basic gist of the idea. I gotta go in one of two directions. Either I get rid of the whole notion of these spikes blocking the Ashlands, or I make it impossible to pass through them, so that you are forced to stop and build and then get through them over time to then enter the Ashlands. I have a feeling, this is just a hunch, like I really don't know for sure, but I have a feeling that these things. Oh yeah, that was the overdone one. So this is the more normalized one. I have a feeling that these... yeah, it's hard to figure out. I know Iron Gate's intention is to make it so that when you go to the Ashlands, it's really dangerous, right? And getting there is a whole thing in itself. Ultimately, though, these things are just a big pain in the ass for people trying to sail in the Ashlands. So it's like a very a turning point. Like, what do? Do you get rid of them? Or do you make them more of what they are? Does that make sense? Because they're not actually very instance heavy. Like, it may look like it's instance heavy. That's just because there's so many of them. If we actually go, like, let's go to an area that's all spikes, for example. I probably haven't been to, maybe over here. All right. You see how it's in like there's like a cove here. That's really funny. That actually worked decently. So you can kind of see what I'm going for here. Basically, what I've realized is the players, it's either going to be there's nothing here, and they just sail to the Ashlands. But I have a feeling that the Ashlands itself might hold more value as like an abstract thing in their heads that they don't get to, but they also don't just punishingly die at. Does that make sense? This is delicate territory. But basically the idea is that by making this essentially impenetrable to the ship, you force the player to park the ship and build. Does that make sense? Because the player then has to figure out, like, okay, are they going to blast a hole through? And then are they going to do it? What are they going to do? You know what I mean? Because we can make it look better, but how do we make it so that the players actually enjoy it, right? Because I know that they don't like these things right now, and in general, I don't think they're serving a purpose like Iron Gate wanted them to. I mean, maybe they are. I don't know, really. I just feel like the Ashlands in general isn't a place people can just... like, they don't really build there much. They go there for a bit, and it's too intense, basically. So it's like a challenge they have to prepare for, and certain players enjoy it, right? But it's definitely like, I don't know. I also had this experience, and I'll read Dakar's comment in a moment. I had this experience when I played originally. This is what I did. Let's set the mood here. When I first did Ashlands, I came in a longship, right? One of the ones like this that burns in the ocean. I came in that, and I crashed with a bunch of wood and materials into one of these things. And then I had a really fun time, actually, to be honest. That was my favorite time in Ashlands, was just building in this area. It's very peaceful. You only have to deal with vultures and bone maw that are, like, in the water. And it was quite fun, to be honest. I built, like, a whole platform area. You can take these things apart to get grouston. So you have, like, a load of building materials. And it gave me a pre-Ashlands experience where, like, I was able to just go crash into some of these spires and have a fun building time. So That's why it's kind of like I'm wondering, like, what do I do? Do I make it so that is what happens, right? Then that's kind of the idea with the trees. Like, I need to make it so the player has wood here, but I don't know how to do it in a way that works, right? Because the tree is like, they kind of work, but when you start taking them apart, it looks really weird. And then it like makes a big log that floats, and like you have to hurt the log. It's really not intuitive, so not really sure how to handle that, to be honest. That's why I might just get rid of them. Or make it so there's way fewer. So that's what Dakar was suggesting, basically. He said, one second, let me scroll up. Bum bum bum. Why is my scroll thingy not scrolling? I don't know. Dakar said, my first instinct is to reduce max by half, increase scale, and increase the group size and radius. So it would make fewer routes overall, and they're a bit more finding the way through. Yeah, I think that's what Iron Gate has in mind in general. You know what I mean? Like that these things slow you down before you get to the Ashlands. And on Enigma, like when you get the path here, it just deletes the things in the way, basically. Or these kind of pillar stone things. So, like, and in my head, in Enigma mode, you either use the path to create a path to sail through. I could make it so the path, like, deletes a bunch of these things, so a boat can sail next to the path really easily to get into the Ashlands. Like, I can do it that way. I'm not really worried about how Enigma will handle it. I'm just more thinking of in general, like, is there a way we can trick the players into having a peaceful building experience when they try and sail to the Ashlands? Like, can they know that the normal thing is to go land in a safer area, build a base, and then from that point, move forward into the Ashlands? Because I think that would make it more fun. But at the same time, maybe the Ashlands is already too gated. Like, maybe it's already too far away. It's too inconvenient. And I should just make it so players can just sail there. You know, like, I don't really know. I don't know what to do. My instinct is to just make it so players can sail, right? Like, that's what I really think is probably best. But that's only because of what I've learned from how I feel. Does that make sense? So, like, I feel most interested in making some kind of impenetrable wall and thing that they can, you know, like, get to the Ashlands. But then it's not combat focused. Like, I don't know how to put my finger on it, but it's like the Ashlands is all combat all the time, constantly. They need more of a break. They need a place where they don't have to deal with that as much, you know? Let's see how these fishmongers do. Oh, he's done. They got super done. I love seeing the Diverger do the little thing. So Juan, I'm trying to see if I can get your name in one go. Juan Camilo Canas no, I fucked up. The last name, Jaramillo? I don't know how to say it, but I'll call you Juan. Juan says, I'd say it would be cool to make it more chaotic. Because it's already chaotic on vanilla. First time reaching Ashlands, finding those spikes, bone maul, and vultures. Maybe placing archers in the spikes. Yeah, I don't think that's a good idea personally, because I guess I can talk a bit about the vanilla Valheim, or the vanilla Ashlands experience in general from the perspective of a server manager. It's like bosses. Some people do it and then they stop playing. Like they don't really enjoy it. And one of the reasons they don't enjoy it is because they like the idea of a D-Day experience where you die as soon as you hit the coast. But they don't actually like the reality of that. It's not something players want. They don't want a constant war in their building game. They want war in areas where they have bits of safety that they can build out and then go into the danger from those bits of safety. Like, that's what players tend to really thrive in. So I'm not really interested in making the Ashlands more intense in any way. I mean, don't get me wrong. I run Enigma mode, right? Like, I mean, thousands and thousands and thousands of Vikings have died because of things that I've done. But I've learned a lot in doing that. So I believe that there's more to give people by giving them a safe place that is easy to build in than there is adding more dangers. The Ashlands is missing a balance, so to speak. So what I've imagined, and I didn't get it right here, it's like I imagined this wall, basically, and an impenetrable wall. Yeah, exactly, yeah, like Fire said, Ashlands needs more neutral safe zones. Yeah, pretty much. It needs those for sure. What I tried to make is a wall that, like, you cannot sail a ship through. Make sense? Or, like, maybe there are very occasionally little gaps to get a ship through. But I actually thinned out the area these show up in, and that's why they show up. See, it's actually, like, a pretty thin range. It's based on the altitude height, so that makes it kind of follow around the islands. Makes sense? And that's why you get these kind of like curved areas and stuff. But you can see this is like, yeah, you couldn't sail a boat through here, right? And that's the idea, is that you wouldn't be able to. So what the player would be forced to do would be to stop here and then build up, and then they could on foot make it to the other side, and then they could build another boat here and use that to get, you know, you see what I'm getting at? Like, I think this is the missing piece of the puzzle. These are all too, of course, too big probably right now. But that's the idea. Juan says, then it could be a mix-up of that, plus some safe houses filled with goodies on the center of the islands. Yeah, I mean, that sounds like a good idea for the, yeah, if someone wants to do that in specific or particular for their world. I think you're right in general about your first comment, is that the Ashlands is like, it's interesting to work on and think about, but it shouldn't really be prioritized too much, because mostly it's just something that exists in the players' heads that they don't ever actually end up experiencing. So yeah, I'm not sold on what I want to do. Like, on one hand, I could see getting rid of it, right? But then, yeah, it's like I've learned these two lessons. So I'll talk about these two lessons, and then we'll go to another biome. We'll go to the mountains. That's the one I feel worst about right now. But here are the lessons I learned. So first off, some things are better off never really experienced. I know this is unpopular, but trust me, it's real. There are certain things that a game benefits from having that are in the backs of the players' minds that they know are there, but they don't do them. I'm not saying the Ashlands has to be that way, but the Ashlands experience itself, once you're actually there and you beat a fortress, I mean, there's not really, once you're capable of doing that, that's kind of the end. There's nothing more. I mean, on Enigma there is, you can fight bosses, right? But I mean, in general. So I have a feeling that the more we delay them from actually getting to the Ashlands mainland, it might be better. Make sense? That's why if we can find a way to make these things, the player needs to try and get to the Ashlands, probably unprepared, right? And then for somehow they must feel that their best option is to stop and get on the pillars on foot and then build something. But like, how do we get them to feel naturally, organically, that that is their best option? Right? And like, if you want to really see what I mean, look at instances right now. There's 100 something. So like, in this situation, we don't need to worry about removing these. There's barely any instances. Once they start fracking them, then there's more instances, but it's still quite reasonable because we're out in the ocean. There's like nothing here. Really good performance in general. Also a good area to build in. That's why I'm thinking, like, I really feel there's something to this. Like, I like how this kind of is, right? Where it's mostly an impenetrable wall, but there's certain areas that, you know, you could like swim around and get up on these things in between. You know, it's like, The more I talk about it, the more I feel like it just needs to be balanced properly. I'll try what Dakar suggested. And maybe, yeah, like make them smaller, but then make it so there's more of them. Because in this case, we can afford to. It's totally fine to have, like, we could double or triple the amount of these things and it wouldn't matter. It'd still be like, yeah, if this was tripled, it would still be less than anything I've showed you so far. So I think that's probably what I'll go for. Make them smaller. The thing is the wood. That's the thing. Like, we want to figure out how to make it so the player can crash here and then get something. I don't know, though. I don't know. Let's see. Let's see. The fish said, like, it's... Oh, do a goblin mode for the Ashlands. Like, it's 60% peaceful till you say hell mode or something like that. Like, unlocking the combat craziness. Huh, that's interesting. Oh, that's a good idea, Dakar. I could make, like, platforms or something, right? So I guess the thing then is how do we get them? They're gonna come here. They're probably not gonna be prepared. Maybe they'll have a Barden or they'll crash in with a longship. And then how do they get building materials? I love how these things are designed, by the way. It's definitely like they have this circular design, which means that players can like use them to get out of the boiling water. It's pretty cool. Hey, share your idea, Juan. That's why we're here. We're brainstorming. I think that's cool. It's a good idea too, actually, this notion of like making a custom location inside the Ashlands itself, basically. So it's like sort of like there's two things that sort of have to happen. These ones. And then the ones inland where you need like a safe area to build in, basically. Maybe the location itself can just be something that kind of like a Haldor's bubble, you know, it repels monsters a little bit. Just some food for thought, though. I'm not sure yet. So Juan's idea is to have 2 layers of spikes. One is destructible, and it would need a Barden to get through them by like sailing. Oh, kind of like icebreaker. That's cool. And then an inner layer of spikes, which are indestructible, that you have to build through. That sounds pretty cool, to be honest. Like, if I wasn't developing within the constraints of Valheim, I would definitely do something like that. Oh, fish, that's perfect. Yeah, we can convert the vulture's drops. Ah, yeah, that's one way to do it. And also these things. These things somehow spawn on the towers. So I guess we could use that and convert this into something that gives them a bunch of, yeah, like wood or something. I have to remember, this is the Ashland, so if they build in wood, there's these like embers that fall out of the sky. So yeah, they have to build sparingly with wood or with stone and other things. So it's like kind of interesting. Because on one hand, the explosive rock things themselves, they, like this thing, like the mechanic is already there, you know what I mean? Like, like how I can actually damage it punching it. It's funny. For example, like this is just an idea, kind of going off of what Juan was saying. Except instead of them destroying it with their boats, what if there were more of these kind of things? Because then they could destroy them, and they get building resources, right? But I don't know. Now I remember destroying those things was such a pain because they don't frack in like a flat way. They frack in these ways that like are really spiky. So probably it's best if they can like only have to mine them out a little bit. I don't really know though. Like these are definitely too big, right? So I'll make them smaller so it's more reasonable. But I think probably I've gotten as much as I can imagine out of this area for now. Definitely need to reflect on it more. Probably will lean into doing everything possible to get them building in the spikes. So that then when they go into the Ashlands, it's more normal. But again, once they find the Ashlands in Enigma mode, like, it's just going to take a path through to the Ashlands, right? So this is keeping in mind, like, I'm kind of going a little bit out of scope. But that's okay. That was fun. So now I'm going to go back to the mountains. That's where I actually want to check out, see what's going on there. Let's go remove key. Nice. Now let's find... Hey, here's a tiny little mountain surrounded by black forest. Let's go for a big one, though. If you didn't notice, I moved a lot of the ruins, and they're no longer in the Ashlands. If you've been to the Ashlands, it's normally full of ruins. So we're about to have another kind of problem. All right. What is that? Ah, I just happened to spawn next to one of the Dernween sword spots. Yeah, I think so. Ha! Yeah, it's inside that thing. That's really funny. Alright. I'll just put this in a decent spot so we can see what mountains are looking like. Actually, mountains aren't that bad. This is looking alright to me. Whoa, we're less than 1,000? Ayo. Ayo. I was gonna say, this... Here you go. This is where... There. This is the one place that I'm not sure. I love how the ruins in the snow and, like, finding these ancient places feels. So I might just leave it. I know that it doesn't make sense, and it's a lot of instances. 2,500. I mean, we're still less than, you know, Black Forest, but It definitely, like, there's just something about, like, what I really like about the Ashlands, one of the things is the vibe of all of these endless ruins, but then players just don't really get to experience it as much because of how far away the Ashlands is, right? So that's why I put them in the mountains, but only the mountains that are far away from the center, right? So if we reset and we can see what it'll actually look like more from the player's perspective, right? Is that a frost cave? I didn't see that text there. So sometimes you find like the cathedrals and things, and there's charred monsters here, but not like loads and loads and loads and loads of them. But there are, you know, they're definitely there. I did a few little things to like remove the little smelters on the floor, or not the smelters. I removed the like ash ferns and the little things that are normally in these locations, and I replaced them with other stuff. So you'll find like monsters spawn around you kind of as you're here. It's kind of like a custom area, and these things are so weak that I'm pretty sure that basically like from just a bit of fighting they'll get destroyed. And I just don't know if it's worth... I guess it's alright. If the rest of the world has less instances, it's probably fine. And this is kind of out of the scope of the thing I'm talking about. I just wanted to show the mountain a little bit. Because these are like... I'm trying to make like different kinds of mountain, right? So these are like... kind of inspired by Skyrim a little bit and how that vibe is, right? Seemed like a place where they really work. But then you still have like normal mountain areas, right? It's not like it's like that everywhere. So that's a floor trade headquarters. We saw that earlier. So this is more normal mountain. And then of course you get into the Mistlands. And the Mistlands are a little bit different. Oh. Hi, thanks Fire, by the way. I do appreciate it. It's true, I do have to be careful to make sure I don't stream too long, because then I don't do as much YouTube work. In this case, it's not too much of a problem, because I'm doing something else. This is like work I needed to do anyway. Alright, so we're at like 1200 here. You can see the Mistlands a little bit. The Mistlands are pretty much... like, I removed most of the mist, but not all of it. So there is way less mist, right? But there must be like a skull or something here. Because the skulls, they have like a permanent mist, pretty much. So here you can see, this is what most of the Mistlands looks like. If we go on the ground. Bum-ba-da-bum. It has more flatness, so a lot of this stuff would normally be covered with rocks. Like these kind of things here. But the Mistlands itself, it basically has to have these rock spires. I tried getting rid of them, and it looks super lame. Like, the Mistlands is not the Mistlands without the rock spires. It has to have them. As for the mist, I got rid of, like, a lot of it. To try and make it... I think I got rid of, like, 90% of it. So it still does show up sometimes, but it's not a constant thing that people have to deal with. You can see we're at, like, 1,400 instances right now, and I think most of those are from the locations. So it looks like the general rule of thumb is like you want the general biome to be like 1,000 instances or less, because then when there's a location, you can have there be more. Make sense? Like for me, I'd say this is alright. Maybe the tree is a little bit too big, but there's more spaces to run around in, right? You can see, like, it opens the Mistlands up a little bit. Gets rid of a lot of the mist. But there's still, like, you can explore, right? And that's kind of the thing. I want to make sure that it's easier to run around. And you don't have to go like up and down as much. And I did a bunch of experimenting and definitely found that these things, they're really important. They are what makes the mistlands, more so than the mist. The mist, you just need like a teeny tiny bit of it, and then it's fine. I'd say I'm quite happy with the mistlands, to be honest, though. Oh man, look at this spot. 600. Oof. Oof. Yeah, me too, Dakar. The mistlands are easier to... It's kind of like the way they made the assets is just coincidental. That if you take this cliff, this one right here, it's like more round, and you take the pointy ones, and then you take the trees. That's it. That's all you need. Without all that stuff, it looks very odd, like naked hills, basically. Like if we remove everything for a moment here. Then you can see this is the true Mistlands terrain, right? It's very hilly and mountainy. Very much so. And without those assets, it looks like something else. Like I would say the Mistlands is probably a good template for some other biome because the terrain generation here is very unique. I don't think there's anywhere else in Valheim that makes... It, like, makes a bunch of little tiny mountains. And the mountains itself doesn't do that. You see all these, like, little tiny spike things? This is the only biome that does this. So we can just go over and see, like, this is the adjusted ones. And the adjustment's pretty simple. It's just that cliff, this round one, the big spiky ones, and the yucca trees. Everything else is pretty much removed. The harder ones, the harder biomes to work on, I'd say, are the meadows. Honestly, right now, I thought I was unhappy with the mountain, but maybe maybe I was looking at an old world or something, because it looks alright to me. Let's find one that's closer to the center. That way it won't have any, like, charred fortresses or anything. Oh, this one's huge. Let's see what this one looks like. Yeah, and Fire, it's the same for me. Fire says, not a major difference. It still looks great. I kind of like the ground being more open. I'm pretty sure Valheim in general is too full, and it causes problems. Well, this looks like... I mean, this looks totally fine. Maybe too many. I don't know. I like how it looks, to be honest. 1100. Oh, and we're next to a frost cave? What am I talking about? This is perfect. There's not too many. Hey, yo, that's awesome. Right next to a dungeon, too. That means most of the instances are in the dungeon. I'm not running Dungeon Splitter or something, so I'm here. That means it loaded stuff. This looks really nice, to be honest. I'm very happy with this. I don't even... Like, what did I get rid of? I don't, like... I guess I kind of want to know, like, what it normally looks like. So I'm going to reset... I'm going to, like, disable the file. Here, I'm just going to go to the vegetation. I'm going to cause a catastrophic error. Let's add a space in the beginning. Ah, yeah, whole file's all fucked up now. Lovely, lovely, lovely. So, now I should be able to look in the log, and it says, failed to load any vegetation data, and then it loaded all the other entries. Ah, yeah, is too good. I want to corrupt the whole file, not just one entry. Alright, let's go. Hey, Jake! Welcome, welcome, welcome. I hope you're doing well. I guess I can just tab everything out. What happens now if there's no entries? Oh, failed reloading deep. Oh, that explains it. All right, all right, all right. There we go. Okay, so now when I reset this, we should go to vanilla. So right now in this spot, I have 1,600. Now let's reset it. Not remove. Vegetation, reset, zone, max distance equals, I'll do 3, force, start, go. Okay. Oh, regrowth turned back on at some point. That's not good. Huh? Wait, what? Like, there's more instances, but it looks like there's less stuff. That's hilarious. I get it. I got rid of most of these kind of things. That is really funny. That was the last thing I expected to happen. Wait, what? Wait. Yeah, there's 2,000 instances now, and it looks more bare. That's really amusing. Okay, now let's fix the file. And then I'll save it. Now it has all the entries. Okay, I see what's happening then. Yeah, so basically, it has fewer of the little rocks and more of the bigger ones. I just triggered regrowth a bunch of times. That's gonna mess everything up. Now I have to, whatever. It's okay, I think I'm almost done with this. I see, now I know what I like in the mountains. I like how the big rocks add, like these, this asset and this one, they both add a nice kind of depth. Makes me wonder, what if I like reduce the other stuff and increase that? Like, does stuff like this add much value? You know what I mean? I feel like they can be there occasionally, but you don't really need them constantly, right? Let's see. I'll do one more iteration here. We're gonna go everything that's in the mountain. Just gonna change the maximums here. Okay, we have rock 3, silver vein, rock 1, rock 2, rock 4. Oh, I know what I should do. Let's actually just see what objects. List. No, count. Not list. Zone max distance equals 3. Let's get like a parse of... Oh yeah, I need a J. Let's get a parse here of what we're working with. 900 stone walls. Okay, so basically all the instances are the location. 900 of them are stone walls from... That means there's only like 400 instances here. Okay, so where's this spot that has stone walls? Is it inside Hilder's dungeon? There must be one of those towers somewhere. I just don't see it. It's kind of... Ah, there it is. Yeah, it's crazy, right? That one little place is like all of the rocks. Like for me, this looks nice. Like I like this vibe. It looks like a mountain to me. It doesn't look as scarce. I don't really like how in Vanilla Valheim there's these like sheer drops. You know what I mean? So let's see. I'll revert. What would this sheer part here? What would this look like with vanilla generation? Let's comment out everything, save the file. Now we're gonna reset it using vanilla generation. That's so funny. I'm laughing because The vanilla generation looks like I removed everything. That's pretty funny. You see how sheer the cliff looks? And there's less gaps. There's less things for players to, like, get onto. Makes sense? And this is 2,000 instances. So that means about 1,100 of them are, or 1,000 are from the mountain. But then if we just redo this here, I'm going to adjust it a little bit. Let's see. Actually, you know what? F it. It's probably fine, to be honest. Maybe I don't need to reset things so much. And then boom. We get more spots. And now the instance count is only 900. That's so funny. Like, it's like, what is there? What is there 1,000 of that vanishes? Like, I don't even understand, to be honest. Yeah. No, it's the phrase, what Descartes meant by less is more. In general, that's a good design philosophy. Like, you should only use the minimum amount possible to get the intended effect. So clearly, I mean, to be honest, this is pretty exciting because it means that there's probably gains to be found by going through Valheim with this mentality. I mean, like, especially... Yeah, the mountain. I was fussed earlier because the mountain, like, looked naked. It had, like, nothing on it. And so I messed with it but didn't test it. And so now it's like, no, now it actually looks better with stuff removed. It's really funny. Yeah, 900. Like, if we parse the thing now, this is ideal. Very, very ideal. Okay, so now I'm happy. That means that basically mountains are good unless, like, this is only because this mountain is really close, so there's no charred stuff. But if I go, like, let's find a big mountain. Yeah, here, this one looks perfect. This is probably full of charred stuff, like, full of it. Yep, here we go. Yeah, 4,000 instances. And this is something where, like, I know I need to space them out better, but it's just so cool finding these, like, battlegrounds, and then they literally get destroyed as you're there. Like, just watch. Let's spawn. Just by, like, fighting stuff a little bit. We'll see if it actually happens, but they end up breaking a bunch of things because these buildings and stuff are really, really fragile. And so that's something I noticed about the Ashlands. Like, it has this vibe that maybe you could build here or something, but realistically, that's not as much what happens. It ends up, like, getting destroyed really, really easily. So I'm not really sure because, like, this is, like, way too many, right? I just love how they look. Like, so probably I just need to reduce the density a lot because it doesn't need to, like, take the whole mountain over like this, you know what I mean? But it's just, like, I don't know, it's just fun, to be honest. Yeah, I think you're right. Right, Fire, that the mountains in general, the look of the mountains really depends more on the bigger rocks than the little ones. It's also really useful to do this. Like, if you haven't ever looked at a naked biome, it helps you get a sense of, so we'll go vegetation, remove, zone max distance to force start. You get a sense of what the actual terrain generation looks like. And that's what I was trying to explain earlier, because in the Mistlands, it's like mountains. The Mistlands makes very spiky up and down kind of deals. Whereas the mountains themselves, they're actually like one big mountain. It doesn't make a whole bunch of little pointy bits. It makes like one big one. Yeah, and these things, trying to imagine how to best limit them. Yeah, look at these. There's bears, wolves. They can be really fun, to be honest. Like, it's definitely... Like, these assets are really cool assets. Iron Gate did a good job with them. It's just they're in an area that people don't end up finding. So, I think probably I can just reduce the location density of all of these things. And then it'll be fine. Unfortunately, this one's not as simple. I can't just reset it. Just like snap of the finger like I can with the other vegetation. I guess I could turn off. Maybe I should make it so in the areas that these can occur, the normal ones can't occur. You know? Not sure. Not safe for work biome. Yeah, exactly, right? Yeah, it's like, it's almost like this part alone right here. If it was just this, and then these were further away, it'd probably be fine. You know, there's definitely too many of these. But at the same time, I don't, like, I love the vibe, how they look in the snow. Personally, I think they look great in the Ashlands and in the snow. But that's about it. In the other places, they look a bit weird. I was trying to reset and... Yeah, I want to see what it looks like if it's like snowing. You see what I mean? Like, you get a chance to explore this stuff way earlier. And I think that helps make the game more, like, kind of approachable. That's why, in general, I think the Ashlands assets, a lot of them can be moved out of the Ashlands. Iron Gate's very particular about, like, it's the Ashlands, it has the Ashlands assets, but I think we can learn a lot by trying to place things in different spots. Make sense? And, like, see all the little random stuff that's going on? You know, there's some bears sleeping around. There's a whole bunch of other things, too. It's really cool. I wonder what happens, actually, if I turn on God mode and then I spawn. I don't remember if magic attacks. Yeah, okay. Yeah, so if you fight in one of these areas with magic, it's like a whole destructible place, right? I think you're right about that fire, that, like, they're sort of meant to be destroyed because they're super fragile. Especially if you have, like, an empowered weapon or a sword or something. You'll just, like, one-shot everything. Putting the crystals funny. Although only getting 3 crystals, like, nothing. It's cool, though. And these are areas that wouldn't respawn. So... still food for thought, really. Right now, they're mostly a thing in Enigma that serves to give, like, another interesting place to fight in, right? But definitely too many instances. I guess I can try. Let's mess with the locations file here, just so that next iteration I do, it's more reasonable. So, first what we need to know is, what are we looking at? We see all of these ruins, but what locations is this actually? Make sense? So to figure that out, we can go locations, list, zone, max distance equals 2. And we have 2 vulture nests, road posts. Okay. These are Charred Ruins 2, Ashland Ruins, And the one I saw earlier was Charred Ruins 1. Okay, so let's see visually which is which. I want to make sure I really understand what's going on here. So let's look at this, for example. Okay, we have two location types, Charred Ruins 2 and Ashland Ruins. So let's get rid of Ashland Ruins. Locations, remove Ashland Ruins. Zone max distance equals, I don't know, like 3? Oh, was that going to mess everything up there? Boom. Okay. Well, there we go. It turns out that was all just Ashland's Ruins. That's all it was. It turns out Ashland's Ruins is the cool one. It's the one that is everything. Basically, now we're down to 1,000 instances. Okay. Okay, I see that is... Oh, wow. All right. This is exactly why I love brainstorming and doing these streams and learning. Okay, I thought that there were like 6 different locations I needed to grapple with and figure out how to get this to work better. But I see very clearly now that it's just one location that is giving everything I like, and all I need to do is make that one location work more reasonably. That's it. So like, for example, now let's imagine if we were to go over here, and let's say we make one right here. Locations, register, no, location, register. And then it's Ashland Ruins. Okay? Yeah, there's more than 3 versions of basically all the locations in Ashlands are various kinds of Ashland's Ruins, and there's like Ashland Ruins 1, 2, 3, Cathedral, there's Charred Fort Ruins, I think there's like 7 or 8 different locations. So I was just surprised that what I thought was a variety of different locations was actually just this one location, which is going to make it way easier to adjust, because now I just need to make sure that they're a little bit apart from each other so that we don't have 5,000 instance mountains and it's more like 2,000, maybe something like that. So for example, if I reset, now we should see what just one of them looks like. Okay. So it looks like, oh, it's one of the locations that changes itself. Yeah, yeah. That makes sense. So now if I do this again. Ah, yeah. So it can vary quite a lot. I see that oops. That explains why. Ah, that explains why they look so cool. Okay. Okay, so let's see. If it was like this. Jake says the hard part is remembering the stuff you brainstormed later. No, the hard part, that only is hard if you think you need to remember. That's the trick. There is no remembering. There's just experiencing, and everything you experience shapes and adjusts you. So even if you think you don't remember it, by having the experience, you are changed. And the next time, you will remember what is relevant to you. And if you had a relevant experience, it will come to you. So that's why, like, I don't need to keep track of anything. I can just have these experiences, do these kind of streams, have these sessions, and they change me, even if I don't make any notes. And then next time I work on stuff, as soon as I sit down to start work it, I remember what relevant experiences I've had in life, of which one is these. So personally, I don't worry too much about that. I used to, but I just give you one word of advice. We're a lot more powerful than you realize. As humans, as people. You, as a person, are more powerful than you realize. So what you've been told about how you function is wrong. And you're actually a lot more capable. You're a lot smarter than you realize. And most people are so mired in their insecurities that they aren't able to use the skills that they have. And one of the things that people do is that they make it very much about fear. So when it comes to brainstorming and remembering things, there's always this notion of something being wrong. That's because in society, people will always criticize you. They will always find something that's wrong about what you're doing. But that has nothing to do with you and everything to do with the fact that they're mentally unwell and they're not happy. So they're lashing out at other people. And you have to remember that society isn't okay. The vast majority of people are not okay. They're sick or about to get very sick. They're addicted to various things. They may not be like, in the streets dying of heroin, but they have problems. People have a lot of problems. So I just encourage you to remember that this judgmental society you've experienced being a part of has no fucking idea what it's talking about and has no place to judge you at all. And probably you are a lot more capable than you realize. That's generally how it works. All right. Yeah, I think you're right, Fire. So Fire says that Ashland's locations are really cool like that. They have more variability. And these ruins in particular are the ultimate variability. All locations in Valheim are like that, actually. But they learned their lessons, right? So like here, for example, if we just reset this thing, you'll see that it does actually change. Like each time it's different, right? Now it's more full. Do it again. Different angles, but centerpiece isn't there. See? You're right, though. They learned their lessons, and they made it look even more unique. They made it look so unique that they tricked me into thinking I was dealing with multiple different locations, but I was actually dealing with the same one. I mean, that's pretty impressive. Like, I'm not gonna lie. That shows that they learned in the time that they made these ones compared to those ones. They learned a lot, right? Like, clearly, that's obvious. What? That was funny. Seeing that go all the way over here while I was in ghost mode, I was like, what the hell? I'll be right back. I'm just gonna pee. Nice. All right. Yeah, exactly, Fire. Fire gets it. He says, I'm slowly realizing I have a lot more capabilities than I might give myself credit for. I still like to play stupid, so people don't expect too much, but I've learned quite a lot. Hey, that's wonderful. Well, for what it's worth, whether you're stupid or smart or rich or poor, people are always going to judge you until the moment you die. There's no escaping it, so there's no point in trying to be something you're not, because you're going to get judged anyway. There's no escape. Rich people have to deal with the judgment of others. Poor people do. Everybody in life has to deal with the fact that people around you are suffering. So that's why I like to remind people, because for me, I feel like in general, I was treated very well in life. But there's one thing that I wish I wasn't told growing up or implied. And the thing is, people made it seem like everyone's okay. I really, really believe that I would be better off if my parents had educated me about the reality that most people are not okay. Like, I'm not even talking about in some foreign land where there's war. I mean in your own developed country. People are not okay. We haven't figured everything out. We haven't made a fair world. We haven't even improved things for average people. Like, they haven't gotten better for the average person in the past 20, 30 years. this narrative that life is just getting better and better and better for everyone, and technology is saving everybody, and nobody has to work anymore. It's all bullshit. Like, it's just not real at all. And for me, I got frustrated with that because for a long time I bought into that bullshit. I thought it was real. I thought I was one person having problems in a world full of people who've all figured everything out. Clearly, that's not the case, right? And like, I just like reminding people, like, look, you got your issues. It may feel like your issues are bigger than the rest of the world's issues, but they're not. Everyone else has so many problems, they're not even thinking about what you're doing. They're thinking about you when they're talking to you for a moment, maybe, or maybe for a moment at some other point. But most of the time, they are completely preoccupied by their own insecurities about their own lives. People do not function. They are not okay. They are, for the most part, suffering. Not saying everybody is, but a lot of people are. And like now in my life, I can understand people. I'm very empathetic with people. I know why people misbehave and what causes them to. And for the most part, I only get angry when it has nothing to do with them and I'm pissed about something in my personal life. So like, I don't really get angry at other people. But the reason for that is because I understand people. Because now I see that people misbehave because they're not okay. They have a lot of problems and stress in their life. So that's why they do bad things. That's why they hurt other people. Because anybody in their position would hurt people too, because they're being hurt by their parent. Their parents are neglecting them. People have abused them, you know? Like, that's how our world works. So it's always good to kind of keep these things in mind, right? And like, there's this attitude that we've figured things out, and that's just not true at all. We are just as archaic and absurd as the cavemen we imagine to be violent. We are absurd. It's just, it doesn't seem to be so absurd because you're alive within the bubble. But trust me, when people look back upon the things that we do, it doesn't make sense. Like, we, as a nation, hundreds of millions of us purchase products to try and avoid diseases that are created by the products that we purchase to try and avoid the diseases. You know, like, oh, it's ridiculous. Like a dystopia for sure. Like Fire says, in the last 100 years, I don't think life has gotten better for the average person at all. Sure, we may have access to technology and stuff, but my grandpa could support 10 kids on one income. Yeah, Fenring Cultist agrees. Wanted to hang out here. Hey, that's awesome, Fish. I'm glad you write down your thoughts and make poems out of them and stuff. It's great. That's a good outlet, to be honest. Like, I found that, like, you can't have too much expectations about anything. You just have to kind of find what you feel motivated by and what you have fun doing, and do it in balance while taking care of your body. And then things can work out, you know? Personally, I wouldn't necessarily say that life isn't better from 100 years ago. I think for the average person, it probably is in most nations, simply because 100 years ago, the world was genuinely more violent. Like, stuff like Israel and Gaza and these things, this was more normal everywhere. I'm not saying it's not normal now. There's plenty of wars in Africa that have occurred. A whole genocide essentially occurred in northern Africa during the COVID pandemic that Western people just don't even know about. You know, there's a whole bunch of death and things that have happened. So I'm not saying that doesn't happen. But I do agree that, in particular, the past 30 or 40 years have not progressed. Like, people aren't living better lives than their parents in the United States and in England. I don't know about other nations, but I know with certainty, like, just to give you some reference, I was born to an American and an English parent, right? There were points in my life where I tried to move back to England to be around my family there. And they stopped me because they so firmly believed that there was no chance for a young male in England. Like, just let that sink in for a second. These aren't like patriarchal or like these are very like intellectual, open-minded people who stopped me that way. And then I went to the US and had the exact same experience they tried to prevent me from having. So my point's just like, yeah, things, particularly in the past, I would say the past 20 to 40 years, there was this argument that World War II ended, and then there was the big wars because of the Cold Wars between the USSR and the US. And then there was this argument that the Berlin Wall fell, the USSR fell, and then life is just great because we won and we can do anything now. It's the end of history. We even call it the end of history. It's so fucking stupid. And like, that's not true. It didn't happen. War didn't end. All we did is parade around the world, make ourselves rich in unfair temporary trade agreements that are doomed to unwind. And then the generation before us was quite well off as a result of these really unfair trade agreements that were done essentially at gunpoint, right? So like, the freedom and democracy have nothing to do with where our wealth came from. Our wealth came from war. We joined a war when others were weak, and we came out of that war as the ones who had fought the least and had lost the least. When the Russians lost 11 million people or 14 million people or however many souls they lost to defeat the Germans, we lost like 400,000, okay? We lost nothing in the world wars compared to what the other fighters and the other countries lost. They lost colossal amounts of people and resources, and they were fucked by them. We came out on top. We showed our nukes. We bombed a whole city of civilians purely to give the middle finger to the Soviet Union and make a point that we got the big guns. Like, that's who we are. That's who we are as people. That's how our culture is. So it's not really surprising that ultimately, you know, that stopped working out. And I don't really think that humans are evil. That's not how it works. It's that humans are like clay. They do what they are treated. Does that make sense? So when you hurt somebody, you make the world more hateful.
Can we have this too?
When you do something good for somebody, you help heal the world. You make it a better place. So when basically what we did is we had a chance to actually be good to people, to forgive countries that had harmed us, and to be benevolent. We didn't take it. Instead, we became the very thing we fought to destroy. And today, in the modern era, we finance many terrorist groups. We overthrow governments that were democratically elected. We've been caught doing it many times. We don't give a shit. We openly kill people with no actual reason to do so. And we break our own rules on a regular basis. We're thugs and criminals. So, like, that's the reality of where it came from, right? So when you look in the world and you say that humans are evil, I don't agree with that, because it's not that humans are evil. It's that people have been mistreated. And because they've been mistreated, they do bad things to people. That's it. It's a cycle. And if you think that what you've seen so far is human history, it's just a blimp. A blimp. It's just a blip. A blip in the human timeline. We barely have existed. Barely. Just for a moment. So whatever you see is us unfolding. We haven't shown what we're capable of yet. No one really knows. So the main argument I have against people being evil or people being inherently violent or people being bad is the fact that killing fucks people up. There's a reason that genocidalists don't do the genocide themselves in pretty much all history. Like, these people have to train others to kill, who then regret it for the rest of their lives and have to live with it and often kill themselves. Like, it's an incredible toll that it takes on the human psyche. And so how do you square this with people being evil and people being bad and humans being violent? If humans were violent, we would just be able to be violent and not give a shit and be totally fine with it. If that was our nature, there wouldn't be consequences for harming other people. Yet, if you actually hurt another person, it will haunt you until you die. If you haven't spoken with a soldier, or you haven't spoken with somebody who's killed, it is a tough life. They live with it for the rest of their lives. They are haunted by the eyes of those that lives they ended, even when those people were actually trying to kill them. It's a very intense experience. And so that's why, from my perspective, the notion that humans are evil and violence is part of human nature is actually part of, it's kind of propaganda, because ultimately that is a justification of violence. And as a country, as a people, the West, I don't know too much about the Europeans. I can just speak from English and like the Brits and the Americans. I am a half Brit American. That's my culture, so to speak. We are very violent people. And what I mean by that is that we justify violence. We are willing to justify violence. We are willing to justify people being killed if a certain circumstance. Does that make sense? Now that I've lived in Nicaragua and I've been in other countries, I understand now that that isn't normal. There's normally like this hesitation to justify violence. And the American culture as a whole is very rough. It is very capable of justifying violence. In fact, there's a whole archetype that's pre-built into American psyche, just like Order 66 in Star Wars. I know that seems absurd, but Americans they're trained so that if someone is identified as a pedophile or as a terrorist, especially as a pedophile, it's completely acceptable to kill them, to torture them, and to murder them. Like, completely acceptable. In fact, if somebody is designated as a pedophile and you don't hurt them, someone could even mistreat you because of how much hate is directed that way. And the funny thing is it has nothing to do with the actual acts, because it's all about the moment you justify violence against somebody, you're assuming you're right. You see what I'm saying? So like the thing that always happens in the Americas is there's always this group that is designated as acceptable to kill. And then all you have to do is trick the populace into thinking the people you're killing are from that group of people. AKA, you just call them terrorists. That's it. If you can make someone look like a terrorist, you can kill them and get away with it. That's part of American culture. We justify murder and violence, and we have this notion that everyone should be armed. And there's reasons for that. If you look into our history, why? Well, because they believed that the people needed to defend themselves from their own government. Like, and that's why, like, the whole reality of the country now is a complete joke, because there's this, on one side, you have a bunch of people who justify war in foreign lands and then get all pissy about Americans having guns while we literally manufacture most of the world's weaponry. And then you have this other side, let's say the red people. I usually call them blue and red, and they're both crazy. Don't ever think I'm just liberal or just conservative. I think they're both fucking nuts, to be honest. But then you have these blue people who are like, yeah, they think that you should get rid of all the guns and the Americans shouldn't have guns and everything. But then those very same people justify violent acts in foreign lands that were baited that lead to the deaths of hundreds of thousands of humans. So I don't give a shit what they think about their liberal attitudes. They're hypocrites. It's all hypocrisy. And then you have the red side, where there's this narrative that you have to have a gun to be able to defend yourself. And it's like, yo, first off, that amendment wasn't to defend yourself from criminals. It was so your government can't control you. Like, that was the point. They were like, our citizens need to be armed because then they will be protected both from us and foreign governments. Like, that was literally the whole point of the First Amendment, was so the citizens could protect themselves from government violence. It wasn't to stop crime. And that's why, like, for me, I don't know, it's just like, yeah. And like, Jake, I feel you. If you're upset with the violence and you're trying to, if you really want to try and understand hostile adolescence, you got to understand all this stuff. Because when you as a nation go around the world lying, cheating, stealing, waging war, producing weapons, and killing hundreds of thousands of people, leading to the starvation purposefully of millions of people, your kids are gonna be fucked up. That's just how it is. We can't lie to our kids the way we do. We make it seem like we're some hero or something, but see how we actually treat people. See how we treat foreigners. Just see what we're doing in Venezuela right now. You know, like, it's so dumb. So ridiculously dumb. You know, I live in a country that would eventually get targeted with that same kind of thing. You know? Like, Nicaragua's on that hit list. It's just further down. It goes Venezuela, Cuba, Nicaragua. So, like, it's just fucked. Like, the people, the way they do it is fucked up. And, like, what you should understand is the reason it's fucked up is because people have a lot of hatred in their hearts. And anytime people are hated, they will abuse others. So if you want to talk about violence, for example, in schools, like you mentioned that, if you want to understand these people, you got to take a step back. You're already angry and judging them as people. You're already distracted and they're already serving their purpose. What you have to do is understand that those people are abused. So when a kid goes into a school with an assault rifle and shoots up his peers, he didn't do that because of a fucked up childhood. He did that because he's in a fucked up reality in a fucked up country that produces hundreds of thousands of fucked up children every couple years. Let's be real here. Like, what are you talking about? Good childhoods? Who in the US, like, even if you have a good childhood, we are products of war and death that was founded on the genocide of the Native American people. To this day, the Native Americans live impoverished in drug addiction, in rampant crime, in tiny little plots of land that we have segregated them off into. It is shocking how we mistreat people. So that's why you should never be surprised when people mistreat us here. Because this is what we get. It's what we do. It's what we put out into the world. We put out hypocrisy and falsehood, and we export weaponry. Of course, we're going to have school shootings, and they're not going to change. It's not going to go away because, exactly as you all mentioned, people are distracted. They blame it on the parents. They don't understand that these are products of our behavior over generations, decades. So even if there's a certain group you blame, the moment you blame a group, that can be used against you because you can be tricked into thinking somebody is this or someone is that. So you always have to ask yourself who benefits from chaos, because we live in a world where a protest isn't always a protest. If you've ever seen Andor, it does a pretty good rushed depiction of how these things really work. Everything is taken advantage of, and it's not like there's one puppet master pulling the strings. Rather, there are forces and masses of people, and if a message is put in the right place at the right time and with some luck, and you do it a couple hundred times, the masses will move on somebody. You know, there's ways that people have led to the deaths of others while never technically making it happen themselves, simply through repetitive rhetoric around damaged people. This is absolutely something that we live in right now. That's our reality. And like, if you think that it's as simple as just bad people in the government, you gotta understand, like, even right now, I know things in the US are intense, and like there's a lot of separation and division. But ask yourself, who benefits from that? You know? And I've often wondered, it's like, I wonder if there's somebody who is laying the seeds. Because if you think about it, if the current administration is on their way out and they made a bunch of violence and they made a bunch of big domestic problems, well, then it's so easy. You just have to make a person who fixes those things. You know what I mean? So you can create the circumstance that you then take advantage of. And I'm not saying this is happening. I'm just telling you, if you're an American, you should know this is what we do overseas. We finance coups. We get the locals to hate their own people. And then we use that chaos to destabilize and target the political people we favor and put them in advantageous positions. We pay criminals to kill people and to shoot police officers and to start violence, to make scenes. It is absolutely something we do. It's not something just the Israelis do. The Israelis do it, the Brits do it, and the Americans do it. I don't know about the other intelligence services, but I can tell you with absolute confidence that the intelligence services of the Israelis, the Americans, and the Brits finance a process called martyr making. They have it all declared, and you can train yourself about it. To make a martyr, they have a simple, a step-by-step process. First, you need to identify somebody loved by the people. Second, you need to hire an assassin outside of your group in a way that you can't be traced. Third, you get the assassin to kill the people, the person that everyone loves. Fourth, you blame it on the opposition. This is what we teach people to do in our training manuals. Like, this is something we've written down in books and given to people. So that's why, like, if you ever tell that, yeah, I can be a little critical of the US, like, that's why. I live in Nicaragua, and I know some of the things that we did here, and they are so disgusting. It's not ended. That never ended. That behavior, those false flag actions, that way that we lie, none of it ever ended. The whole notion that it's over is just a lie. And if you also want, like, Fish brings up an interesting point about guns being tools. I'm also of that perspective, to be honest. I'm not a person who thinks that you can just get rid of the guns in the United States and get rid of the problems. Because if that were true, well, first off, there's guns in loads of places in the world, like Sweden or Switzerland. There's loads of guns in Switzerland, yet you don't have school shootings in Switzerland. Just like in most other countries in the world, you don't have regular school shootings. That's something unique to the United States. In other countries, it is a true tragedy that is almost completely unheard of when that happens. In the United States, there's a school shooting event every couple of days on average. It's like one per week or something. Let me double check that real quick and just make sure. Average public shootings USA. Now I'll finish up the stream soon, because now did a bunch of stuff, ranted a bunch. It was good stuff, good stuff. I'm happy. All right. Yeah, okay. So, so in the United States in 2024, by December, there were 488 mass shootings. Okay, so that means that it's actually more than once per day on average. I'm not talking about school shootings, but mass shootings once per day, more than once per day. This is a clear illustration of a very damaged, very hurt society, a culture that is deeply suffering. If you look at rates of suicide and drug addiction, it all just helps that. It just helps serve that argument. Like, for example, there's a notion that guns protect you, but almost, well, okay, realistically, a gun in your house is more likely to be used by you or a sibling or a child to kill themselves than it is to protect anybody. Statistically, guns are used to shoot yourself and commit suicide more than shooting another person to death. That alone tells you a lot about the American psyche. It's very much something that isn't prepared for the reality that it has produced. The American people in general are quite babied, despite the fact that we are violent warmongers. We teach each other that we're all peace-loving, and we're just not. You know, there's a lot of lying and trickery, so it's no surprising there's a lot of drug addiction and people go into schools and shoot them up. Because, like, you look at those people, it's not like some person who is treated well is doing that. These are abused people. Like, a kid who goes into a school and shoots it, I don't give a fuck what their parents say about how normal they were. They were abused. Like, of course. You can't just, that's not normal. You don't just go murder people. That happens because you were mistreated your whole fucking life. Like, of course, right? But we live in a society that's all about, like, boom, that kind of thing. What do you mean, Fish? What do you mean that school shootings have been prevalent everywhere? I mean, that's not true at all. Like, okay, like, I'm not saying they don't happen, but let's see. Let me look up real quick. Like, just for reference, in the US, it's like 1.3 per day here. Or at least mass shootings. So, like, if someone shoots someone up in a mall, that kind of thing, they're super, super common. So, like, I mean, you might have access to some data. I don't. But even if you look at Canada, you're talking about, like, 1 to 10 mass shooting events a year. The US has hundreds. It is, like, I know it's tempting to say, like, oh, there's more shootings in Russia or in Afghanistan. There's not. Like, it's just not true. The way that mass shootings occur is very unique to the United States. There are mass shooting events in other nations. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that never happens. But the repetitive nature of mass shootings is very unique to the United States. As far as I know, there's no other country in the world that has so consistent mass shooting events. But there's even like, how do I put it? So it has a lot to do with the culture, like, really, to be honest. It's quite complicated. Because there's always going to be massacres throughout history. I mean, like, there's famous massacres here in Nicaragua where people were just shot a bunch, right? But it's definitely, like, The problem in the United States is so extreme, it's uncomparable statistically anywhere else in the world. There's nowhere that has that level of public shootings. So there are places that you have a lot of theft and murder, like somebody gets shot with a gun, but getting like when you're like out and you get shot because you got mugged and you didn't react fast enough or whatever and they shot you. That's not what I'm talking about. That's just a murder. It's not a public shooting. A public shooting is when like someone goes to a public space and literally just tries to kill random people they don't know. Or, you know, I mean, I guess you could argue sometimes they know them, right? If they go to their church or something. But most of the time they don't know the people. They're not killing people they know. So it's just like, you know, these are things to keep in mind. The situation in the United States is very unique. And like we have a tendency as Americans to say that, oh, it's the same elsewhere. For example, like when you talk to an American about the abuses of American power, they'll always be like, oh yeah, but the Chinese are just as bad. The Russians are just as bad. The Mexican jails are just as bad. It's literally all propaganda. We are the worst of the worst. You know, the thing about the Mexican jails, the Americans run all of the worst jails in the world. All of the black sites, all of the places where there's tons of torturing and these things, we run them. Like, come on, let's be real here. Do you know what Bush did? When all these things happened? We have a famous one in Cuba, our enemy. Yet we have a Guantanamo Bay there. Like, you know, it's like, what? It's ridiculous, right? Like, do you think it's a coincidence that in one of the nations we consider our enemy, we have one of our worst prisons in existence? Like, you know, it's just like we absolutely torture people. And keep in mind, yeah, a lot of Americans are like, oh no, torture, you know, torturing a terrorist, you know, you have to. No, torture doesn't tell you the truth. Torture is how you get somebody to admit something they didn't want to do. You should understand that. That's why torture is so unethical. That's why what we do is so unethical. Because it isn't real what we say. When we point fingers at the Russians and the Chinese and we paint them as evil, we're saying the things we do that they often stopped doing decades ago, but we kept going. Especially with the Russians. There's a lot of Russophobia right now. Many of the Americans think that the Ukraine war was something the Russians started. That is a PSYOP campaign that we ran to trick the American people into thinking that the Russo-Ukrainian war is an unprovoked war. It is absolutely not an unprovoked war. That war is something we have been trying to provoke for the past decade. There were many times where the Russians tried to stop this from happening. The Russians were being killed in Ukraine. Their language had been banned completely. It is now illegal to speak a language in that country. There were people, civilians, being shelled and killed literally in their homes. Russian-speaking civilians in the Donbass being gunned down by artillery pieces from separatists from Ukraine. So, like, you can think that we're defending Ukraine as an American, but we're not. All we did is doom hundreds of thousands of Ukrainians to die, and a good number of Russians as well. And we all did this to try and make Russia weak, but all we did was turn them into a superpower. They are now a thriving economy during our sanctions. It's absurd. The kinds of things we do, the level of warmongering we are still within. So just keep these things in mind, because if you think things are bad now in the United States, if you think you're seeing violent events, I mean, this is nothing. Just wait. An actual nation in unrest where people can't afford things, it's a lot worse than what you're seeing. And we deserve it. We've put so many hundreds of millions of people through this horrific suffering for no reason. And despite the fact that the American people are largely innocent, they didn't try to. It doesn't matter because we're still used. Our efforts, our cognition, our energy is still used to hurt people. And like, just to wrap it all back, I know I get kind of ranty about these things, but this is why Valheim and the communities and stuff for me is so important, because I don't know what will happen in the way that my country and the world is going, but I do know that people need to learn empathy. They need to learn to treat each other with respect. We need to learn to be kind, and we need to question the justification of violence. For example, to this day, in the United States, we teach people that we won World War II by dropping atomic bombs on Japan. And the reality is, that's just something we did. It didn't make them surrender. And if you think it does, then you have to explain the firebombing of Tokyo, which is something we don't tend to speak to people about. And I think I've explained this to people before when I've gone on this rant, but I was told growing up in the United States that we didn't bomb Hiroshima, or we chose Hiroshima and Nagasaki because we wanted to spare them Tokyo. If you actually know what happened, that is a disgusting lie. There was no Tokyo because we had already destroyed it through the single most horrific human death event in history. We don't talk about this, but if you boil down all of human history to a 24-hour period, it was of military action. I'm sorry, there are some times where natural disasters killed more people. But if you look at human history, military action, the most number of human deaths caused in 24 hours was the firebombing of Tokyo, not the atomic bombs. The firebombing of Tokyo killed as many people in 24 hours as the atomic bomb killed in a week or two. It was hell. We literally created hell in Tokyo. And there was nothing. It was completely destroyed. Absolutely destroyed. So this is why I beg this question. Because if they had already lost their capital and it had been destroyed more effectively than from the atomic bombs, why would they have then just surrendered from seeing some smaller cities get destroyed by atomic bombs? Well, because the atomic bombs weren't actually why the Japanese surrendered. We had a chance to drop atomic bombs on a city of civilians. And we knew it was the only time we would ever be able to get away with such a thing. And we did it to see what would happen. Also to, put the USSR in their place. But, like, these are who we are. That's our reality. You know what I mean? And yeah, it's funny. I know I won't get too political, but also you don't have to worry too much. Because ultimately, I know this is very controversial, but I'm glad that Trump is there. He's like a cog in the machine of death. He will cause the United States to turn its efforts inward, to destroy itself, and then form something new. It's not going to be violent, don't worry, really. Like, the violence that's already happened is the extent of it. But life in the United States, the way it is, the way we wage war on foreign lands, the way we pay taxes and finance everything, the way we go so much into debt that at this point we just have to keep printing more and more and more money. these things are all going to come to a head someday. And there's no way for us to maintain our power as the top of the empire. So for me personally, I'd rather see it crumble. I'd rather see us fail to overthrow the Nicaraguan government because we're distracted by our own internal politics. You know, that's my personal take, but I don't live in the United States anymore. So it's easy for me to say that as somebody who left and got to live a much better life, right? So I totally understand what you mean. But also, like, you have to understand that even people like Trump, they're a product of the society. You could get rid of him, you just get somebody just as bad. You may think that there is no one else, but there always is. And that's how it works. You can remove a leader, but they're always going to be replaced by another person who was produced by the culture and the society. And if you don't like Trump, that's fine. I don't like him. I think he's an idiot. But the reality is, he is an accurate representation of a huge number of American people. That's unfortunate, right? Like, I get it. But at the same time, it is our culture. So, yeah, I mean, I know that he's a bigot and he's a pain and that he's a white man who has a lot of power and is very preferential to white men who glaze him and tell him he's good. But if it wasn't for him, you just end up with someone else doing the same thing and lying about it. So for me, like, I'd rather somebody who, like, is openly absurd than someone who tricks me into thinking they're not a politician. Does that make sense? Like, personally, like I mentioned, I won't go too deep into politics. I don't really care. If you want to argue, that's fine. But for me, when I was younger, I was very inspired by Obama. And I went to his inauguration, and I was very convinced that was a good thing. Yeah, I just came to understand there's nothing to ever respect a president for. They all wage war, they all attack, they all do horrible things. So for me, like, yeah, it's kind of like, the office of the president. Who do you support? It's like, I don't know. Who do you support for the office of head torturer? Like, it's like, okay, do you want this head torturer or do you want that head torturer? Either way, does it even need to exist in the first place? Like, are they actually doing something we need them to be doing? Like, you know what I mean? It's messy. Messy, messy, messy. And yeah, and Juan, you're right. I mean, the atrocities Japan has committed are absolutely, like, but that's the thing. That's the thing that Americans do as well. Like, the moment you bring up something, there is a manufactured defense, right? And so it feels like we came up with that. But usually it's generational propaganda that produced that defense. So yes, it's true that the Japanese were horrible and they were, you know, being a colonial empire like the rest of us. It's true. But, like, I mean, how much are we really going to focus on how horrible the Japanese are when if you just wind the clock back 100 years or so, we were actively exterminating Native Americans with guns. So, like, I don't know, was it bad? Which is worse, that the Japanese raped a bunch of Chinese people and killed loads of people and slaughtered children? Or that we did that to the Native American people and scalped them and had money for their scalps and all sorts of crazy, absurd things. Like, you know, and that's where you have to think, you have to be very careful the moment you justify violence. And that's, I'm glad you brought that up, Juan. That is exactly what I was talking about when I say we justify violence. As people, we're trained to, we're predisposed to justify violence. Americans will always bring up the atrocities that Japan committed because there is this instinct to say that, look, we had to do what we did. We had to drop those bombs. We had to wage war on those people. You can't know that. Nobody can know that. And the fact that we're not willing to look back and question whether we did the right thing or not shows that we haven't learned anything. And as a people, we're still easily distracted, easily destroyed. So I agree. You know, for example, the fact that Trump has managed to gain power by convincing people he's not a politician. It is like, what? Like, wait a second. This politician got into political power on the message that he's not a politician and he's not like all the other politicians. Like, do you realize how stupid that is? Like, right? But here's the thing. We're stupid. We're easily distracted. Just like we can be distracted from a war by focusing on some silly thing locally, that happens all around us. And that's why, like, for me, it always boils down to how you treat people in the physical world. If you don't treat people well, it doesn't matter what you stand for. It doesn't matter what your reputation is. The world is going to become a worse place. So if we actually want the world to become a better place, it's not about waging a war against an opposing government. It's not about opposing and overthrowing and financing coups. It's not about entrapping our political enemies into something that we've baited them into falling into by paying some crime to do some protest and commit some violence. It's not about any of that. It's about being empathetic to people, even people who've hurt you. Sometimes the best thing a country can do is let go, not fight back. But we're not ready for that. We're not wise enough for that. So ultimately, everyone's going to have to deal with the consequences of the generations before us. And the generations before us produced a society off of the benefits of war. So for them, life was easier. For us, we don't have the benefits of a recently waged war making the American society a hegemony. It's a dying empire. We exist in the time after that, where we're losing power, where we're losing influence, and the rest of the world is gaining influence, gaining power, and chances are our cost of goods and everything is all going to stay how it is or go up. We're not going to see decreased costs because we created a system where we're waging war on the entities that can provide us with decreased costs. We are kicking out the immigrants, and we are kicking out the Chinese and foreign business interests where they hold the factories that we moved our companies to 20 or 30 years ago, you know? It's a mess. But I think exactly as Fire said, my goal is to make Valheim a better place. I've given up on the real world. I think that's like, that should be a catchphrase. I love it. All right, everybody. I'm gonna head out. Good to chat. And don't worry, I know it's political stuff, but don't worry if you disagree with me, it's okay. I'm not bothered by people having different opinions. In fact, I think every one of you listening to me has a different opinion than me. So don't worry so much. It's okay. Love you all. I'll be back next time. I'll actually play some Valheim. All right. Ciao.